Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto turned 8, and something began to happen. He changed and grew fur and a tail, part 2, so before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Foxcomm, link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let's start the story. Christmas. Naruto cheered, as he got up that morning. He threw off his blankets, and ran down the hall to his grandparents' room. Wake up, Dad. He jumped on Ray. Wake up. Your son is awake, Dee said, her eyes still closed. He's your son too, Ray moaned. Naruto got off his chest, reached under the blanket, and grabbed his tail, and started tugging him out. Come on, wake up. I want to see what Santa left me. It'll be there when it's time to open them, Ray said, taking his tail back. Naruto puffed up before jumping on him again. And that time is now. Come on, Dad. Ray pushed him off him, making him roll to the foot of the bed. Naruto got to his feet, scrunched his legs, and pounced on him again. There he sat on him once more. Naruto, you do have a mother you can bother, Ray said, slowly opening his eyes. Nah, Naruto said, looking at Dee's oversized tummy. I'm not jumping on my little sister. Get up. I swear I'll go get Conan. Dee's just grinned at that. You still think it was a good idea to introduce those two? Not in the least, he muttered. I'm up, he told Naruto before yawning, revealing inch-long fangs. He sat up, throwing Naruto off him, and got out of bed. Naruto ran out while Ray helped Deez from bed, and got dressed. Kushina did the same thing, didn't she? She did. She looked out the door, and reached down, as Naruto came back in, picking him up. She gave him a kiss, and said, Good morning, son. Good morning, Mom, he said, returning the kiss. I love you too. Is everyone else waking up? They are. Can we now, please? Pretty please with ice cream, whipped cream, and a cherry on top? You're making me hungry. Everyone needs to be up, Naruto, you know that. Head on to the den, and wait. Okay, he said dejectedly. Deez set him down, and Naruto walked out, head hanging. Wow, he was laying it on thick, Ray said, chuckling. We should hurry. We should. Outside their room, Naruto rushed out into the den, smiling. All the clan got together for this, so there were hundreds of gifts, enough shiny paper wrapping to fill his room, with ribbons enough to wrap around the clan estate. Naruto looked around sneakily, and began to tiptoe to him. Naya, Conan drop kick. 2 feet met his head, knocking him back. Naya, Conan said to him, standing there proud. Naruto jumped back to his feet, his fur on end. Morning, putty tat. She pounced on him, making them roll around. They did until Conan slammed his shoulders to the ground. Pindya, let me up, Naruto said, pushing her off, before grinning, and jumping on her, only for Conan to twist, and slam him to the ground once more. Pindya again. She got up, and rang the belt on her choker. Her hair was gathered into a large braid, and tied to a gold ring that ended at her knees. She wore black pants, and a green shirt that stopped at her hips. Morning, Conan. She gave him a Cheshire cat grin. You weren't trying to sneak a gift, were you? No, Naruto denied. And what were you doing here? Nothing, she said, tracing circles with a foot, giggling. She started to get closer to him, making Naruto nervous when he was saved by others of the clan coming. Morning, Runt, one of the older boys of the clan said, putting Naruto in a headlock, and giving him a. Naruto tripped him with his tail, cat pile. He jumped on him, followed by Conan, and other children in the clan. What's going on here? An adult shouted, getting them all to stop. Tiga stood there, tapping his foot. Well? When no one said anything, he went up to them, and said in line, all of you. Over a dozen kids stood in line from youngest to oldest. I want to know what was going on. Kotaro? I don't know, uncle. We just started playing, the teen replied. He walked down the line to the two he had no doubt caused it. Naruto and Conan stood next to each other, looking at the definition of innocence. Well, what, they said at the same time. Who started it? She did, Naruto said, pointing to Conan. While Conan pointed to him, and said he did, at the same time. They looked at each other, shifted their fingers to point to themselves, and said, I did? No, you did. They then pointed at Kotaro at the head of the line, and said, he did it. Tiga shook his head. Why did I let you two become friends? Naya, Conan replied, smiling. Rinpoche would have made you sleep in the den if you locked me up in my room. Tiga sighed. She was right, his wife would have. 7 months ago, when they agreed to take care of her, his wife Rinpo, and sisters, Nina, and Mina fell in love with the girl. And he had a sneaky suspicion that Conan liked Naruto, and that was why she picked on him. He knelt down, and looked Conan in the eyes. He didn't say anything, just looked, trying to make her nervous. Naya. It didn't work. Tiga straightened, and sighed. All right, you kittens, into the kitchen, get some breakfast. They went into the kitchen, and Tiga looked at the gifts. Luckily, none were sat on during the children's play. He snapped his head to the kitchen, already hearing bickering. "Don't make me come in there." "Yes, Daddy," Conan called. Tiga leaned against the door frame, and ran his hand through his hair. Though he wouldn't have it any other way, he did wish for a breather every now and then. "Morning, Uncle," a 3-year-old said, walking up to him, sucking her thumb still. "Good morning, Lily." He knelt down, and gave Mina's daughter a hug. "Ready for some presents?" "I am. Let's get you breakfast." He took her into the kitchen, and saw meats of all types being cooked. Most of the children already had a plateful, and were eating, and Naruto and Conan were fighting over the last piece of steak, once again. "I'll take that," Tiga told them, putting it on a plate for Lily. "What do you want, Lily?" "Milk," she said around her thumb. He grabbed the carton before one of the boys could drink from it, and poured a glass. Whackin'. "Bacon, Lily." He got a few slices, and put them on the plate, as well. Going up to the stove, he grabbed a handful of sliced potatoes, put it in a pan with some eggs, green bell peppers, and ground sausage. "Smells good, doesn't it?" he asked her even, as he bat away one of the girls trying to sneak the steak away. "It does," Lily said, leaning forward. All the Uzumaki clan had a taste for meat, cooked bloody rare. Normally, they didn't eat like this. It would be a quiet affair with your immediate family. But this was Christmas, after all. Once the egg-potato mix was done, he put it on the plate, and cut the steak into small bits for her. Holding the glass with his tail, Lily in one hand, and the plate in the other, he walked her over to a free spot at the table. He set the plate and glass down, dumped the boy that sat down in the chair on the ground, and set Lily in it. He gave her a kiss on the forehead, and a fork to eat with. Others of the clan came in, and cooked their breakfast, giving the whole room a playful mood. When Deez walked in, she grabbed half the slices of ham to eat for her first plate. She always ate a lot, being a dragon, and all, but now, they had to restock food every week, and they had a huge larder. Luckily, the dining table and room was also huge, as it was difficult to fit several hundred clan members in to share a meal otherwise. Children running around, ducking between legs, hisses, and growls over food, one big happy family. All right, Ray said, standing on a chair. "Has everyone eaten their fill?" No one said no. "Count off so we know we got everyone." Everyone shouted, "1. Ray chuckled, "Now we just need to find the other 313. Okay, into the den, families grab your gifts, and outside to the garden. It was a mess to get it done, but Ray found it endearing. This was his family, and tradition. They'd do it more often if it wasn't for the hassle. Once everyone settled down, Ray stood up. "It's been a full year since we last did this, and that's too long, but this year has brought many changes to us. Some have left us behind, others have come into our lives." He picked up Conan and Naruto. "2 of our missing children have come back to us, so don't forget among all the gifts and ribbons, the real meaning here. That today is the day to remember all we have, and all we love. We are the Uzumaki, and the most important thing to us, over this home, over these gifts, is each other. That is the true meaning of this day. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas," they all repeated. Ray set the 2 down, and gave them a pat to go to their gifts. Naruto opened his gift, and held a little stuffed fox toy. Looking at it, he swallowed a lump in his throat, and cried a little before hugging Dee's leg. "Naruto? Thank you," he told her. "Santa got that gift for you," Dee said to him. Naruto shook his head. "I know there isn't a Santa." "Thank you, Mom." He held on to her, and didn't let go. Dee's held him until her face turned white. "Ray, I need you to take Naruto." "Why, what's wrong?" he said, as he picked Naruto up. "It's time," she whispered. Now, she insisted. Deez? Love, speak to me. "I'll head to the clinic by myself," she told him. "I'll be fine, just have the doctors there soon." "Right. What's wrong?" Naruto asked them, holding the fox close still. "My tummy's upset is all," Deez told him. "I'll be back soon, Naruto." She looked to Ray, grimacing a little at the pain. "Hurry." He nodded, as she turned, and walked away, trying not to scream, and ruin the mood. Ray rushed over to one of the clan doctors. "Keep this quiet. I need you, some of your staff, and a white mage to go to the clinic. Deez is having the baby." The doctor went pale at that. "I know, right away, sir." "Honey, duty calls," she said to her husband. "It's Lady Deez. Can you get one of the healers?" "I'll get the midwife." The man stuttered a moment. "You mean she's..." He looked around, and saw people staring at him. "Today," he whispered. "No, right now." His jaw dropped. "Kids, your mother, and I need to do something. Go to your grandmother, and be good." "What's going on, Daddy?" a little girl asked him. "Yeah, Dad, what's going on?" Naruto asked Ray. "What's wrong with Mom?" Others heard them. "Is something wrong with Lady Deez? Do you think it could be the baby? She did leave in a hurry." Lord Ray, is the baby being born? Is it a girl or boy? Quiet down! I don't know if it's a girl or boy, the baby isn't being born yet. She's just having some. Dragon God, that hurts, Dee screamed from the other side of the estate. Ray! My water broke. Yes, it's the baby. He looked around, and spotted his sister. Rinpu, take care of Naruto. He set him down by her, and looked around. Spotting Uzumaki Maria, he ran to her. She was a white mage from the Ran clan, married to the Uzumaki. Maria-san, I need you to come with me. Yes, sir. She was a very large woman, twice the size of Ray, even though she wasn't one of the princesses. All the Rand clans were large. Maria went running to the clinic with Ray hot on her heels. Don't worry, Naruto, she'll be fine. I know, Naruto said, smiling at her. She is my grandmother after all. Strongest woman in the world. Just breath, honey, breath, Ray said before taking a few deep breaths. Don't worry, nothing is going to happen. Everything will be fine. Dees grabbed the doctor by the collar. I'm fine, now either he leaves or I do. We are not both staying here. Yes, ma'am, she replied. Lord Ray, I need you to calm down. Your wife has been having children before your great-grandfather was in diapers. She knows what to do. Oh right. He held her hand then. Just squeeze them. Dees looked at him, their hands clasped together, then back at him. And here comes another contraction, the doctor said moments before it hit. Ray's face began to twitch, and he fell to his knees while Dees still looked calmed. A crack came from his hand. Ray dear, I love you, but right now you're being a pest. I've had enough children to know what to do. Why yes, love, Ray forced through gritting teeth. Doctor, I think my hand is broken. Uzumaki Maria and Eboshi, the doctor, smirked at that. I brought the needle with the painkillers, a nurse said, holding up a syringe over 7 inches long, making Ray go wide-eyed. He needs it more than me, Dees said, letting go. While Maria cast the spells needed to mend the bones, Ray stared at the syringe. What is this, Dr. Eboshi said, motioning to the needle. Spinal anesthesia, 100 milliliter, latest in medical achievements. We didn't have it when Lady Kushina was born 10 years ago. The needle is so big because it's injected into the spine. Normally, a woman the size of Lady Di's would take a 3.5-inch long, fine needle. But, given Lady D's clan and skin strength, we prepared a titanium, spiral-tipped needle. The drug normally used is only 3 milliliters, but again, given she is of the Dragon clan, such wouldn't be enough. Don't worry, Lord Ray, we know exactly what we're doing. Eboshi, he isn't listening, Dees told her. He passed out into the spine. Eboshi looked at him, and laughed. Well, as my doctor said when my husband passed out. That's why women have the babies, men can't take them. She laughed again, remembering how scared she was when he passed out too. Let's put him in a chair. She and the nurse grabbed an arm, and set him in the chair. Milady, I checked to see if you're dilated. You'll feel a cold poke alright. You're ready. Dees shook her head. Amazing, 1,000 years ago, they just stuck you in a room with a midwife, the husband outside, worrying his head off, and wishing you best of luck. Now there's needles, machines, pokes, prods, and push, Eboshi interrupted. I see the head. Now again what does demand? Suddenly very worried with those 2 words. The umbilical cord is around the baby's neck. Dees was in a near panic now. Don't worry, we monitored the baby's heart rate, remember? It was well within normal ranges so it hasn't been suffocated. I just need to see if I can move it over the head or not. Dees looked down, trying to fight back tears the whole time. Well, Ashikura, I need the seizures, and the surgical scissors. Eboshi, what's wrong? Dees demanded. The umbilical cord is too short. So we have to alter the plan a little. I am going to cut the cord now, and we have to get the baby out fast. Have you ever done this? Dees asked. Once in medical school. It doesn't happen often. When I say so, I need you to push hard, Dees. Scared, she nodded. Don't worry, everything will be fine. Eboshi held the seizures in hand ready for a moment longer. Then in one steady movement, she clamped the cord, slipped the scissors under it, and cut it. Push. The baby came out, and Eboshi held it by the feet, emptying the fluid from the lungs, and gave a slap on the butt, getting the baby to cry. Perfect, you have a beautiful baby girl, green eyes, red hair, powerful lungs. She wrapped her in a towel, and gave her to Dees. She's perfect, Dees said, falling completely in love with her. So you're the one that was always kicking me. You're the one that ate all that spicy food, Ray said, having just been slapped awake. He looked at Eboshi, as she moved to the baby, and shined a flashlight in her eyes, first the left, then the right. What's wrong? Nothing, she is perfectly healthy, Eboshi said, smiling. I told you there wasn't anything to worry about. You were right. She gave her daughter a kiss on the forehead. Maria stepped up to her. May I? Yes. Maria took the girl for a moment to cast a few spells to strengthen her, just in case. You gave us quite a scare, little one, Maria said before giving her back, and casting the same spells on Dees herself. You're fine, milady. In a few hours, you can leave, and in a few days, you'll be right, as rain. Thank you, Maria, Ray said to her. You are the midwife as well, yes? It has been a few years, but I think I can handle a child again. She brushed the baby's hair. Name? We thought we would let Naruto decide, Dees told her. Then I better go get him. She left, and came back with an excited Naruto. See, I told you, was the first thing Naruto said to them. A baby sister. You did, Ray replied. What do you think her name should be? Naruto got up to them, and looked at the girl in wonder. Carol. Uzumaki Carol. Carol, Maria asked. That's traditionally a Ran name. No, not Carol, Christmas Carol. Oh, Dees said, smiling. What do you say, Carol? The baby cooed at them. Carol it is then. Our sweet little Christmas Carol. The best gift I could ever hope for. Do you want to hold her? Naruto looked at her, unsure. Will I break her? No, just watch her head. Naruto took her, and slowly began to smile. Carol did, as well before yawning, and falling asleep. I love you, Carol, Naruto whispered, giving her back. Author's notes. Hope you had a Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays, y'all. No matter what you celebrate, that message is for them all. By the way, ever held an infant for the first time? Feels like you're going to break her, don't you? I was scared mindless when I held my niece at that age. As time went by, and everything returned to normal, Naruto took to being an older brother like a duck to water, always wanting to play with her, being nowhere around when she needed her diaper change. Faster than anyone knew, though Carol was 2, Naruto was 10, and Dees was calling in a special favor for a teacher to train him. Hello, a tall woman said to Naruto one afternoon. Hello, Naruto said, looking up at her from his play. It was a game to help build ambidexterity. She had long black hair, tied up in a ponytail, and 2 long bangs framing her face, wore a white yukata, and carried a bakken at her side. Naruto stared at it, unfamiliar with it, as few traditional weapons were actually used in Yuzu. I'm Naruto. You may call me Suzuka. Naruto watched her a moment before he went back to flipping the wooden knives between his hands. Suzuka watched for a moment, and smiled. Naruto caught the blades between his fore and middle finger, flipped it over his hand, and back into the air to catch another one. And best part, he had 4. Naruto may have gotten nicked a few times, but he wouldn't lose a finger over it had they been real. Very good. Thank you, Naruto said before moving his hands, and driving them into the dirt in a row edge to edge. Dad said if I can flip 10 coins at once, I can start training to fight. Taking a deep breath, he took out the needed coins, and placed them in his palms. Rolling his fingers, he began to place them atop his thumbs before flipping them. Naruto displayed impressive speed and agility in catching them. Yet, when none remained in the air, he looked downcast. He only had 7. Not yet. He looked around for the other 2, and didn't see them. Suzuka held her closed hand under his nose, and opened it to reveal the other 3. What are you looking for? I didn't even hear you. How did you do that? I'm very talented. Throw them again. Naruto did, and this time, she didn't catch them. She cut them in half with a single swing of her bakken. Naruto picked one up, and saw a mirror smooth cut. My name is Ryu Suzuka, the last of the Spellblades, Naruto. This is my chosen weapon, eh? With this I can cut man, and metal in half or bruise, and batter them, as I choose. Your mother asked me to do this favor for her, to teach you. So I will, if you prove to me that you are worth it. How? What do you want to be a Spellblade for? Why? I don't know, I just want to. I want you to have an answer by the time you get all 10, and if you don't or I don't like the answer, I won't train you. She stood up, and walked away. Naruto watched her leave, looked back to the shine on the cut, and said, well, Naruto had 9 coins, and would likely catch the 10th before the end of this week, yet he still had no answer. He was so desperate to catch it, and have an answer, that was all he ever thought about. At the moment, he was standing on a foot-tall pole, on one foot, flipping 7 real knives, trying to improve. He was so focused, he never heard his sister come running behind him. Oni Ai-chan. She didn't see him practicing, so she jumped on him without a thought. As Naruto fell to the ground, the knives went up, and headed back down on them. Carol saw them, screamed, and closed her eyes. She never even hit the ground. Opening her eyes, she saw Naruto hold her to his chest, under him, most the daggers in the dirt around them, and one in his shoulder. Oni Ai-chan, I'm sorry. It's alright, Naruto told her, pulling the knife out. No harm done, are you okay? I am, you protected me like you always do, and I always will, Carol-chan. He kissed her before ripping off his sleeve, and binding the wound. Now what is it? Ka-chan said dinner is ready. Okay, you go on, I'll get cleaned up, and join you. She ran back, and Naruto went from grinning to giving a pained grimace, as he pulled the other dagger from above his right hip. Ow! Too close for comfort. He walked to the clinic, and had wounds cleaned, closed, and bandaged. Do I want to know what caused these? Maria asked. Carol got a little excited, and jumped on me while I was training. Is she? She's fine. I was injured making sure she wasn't. She gave a sigh of relief. You're a fine older brother, Naruto. It's what I live for, Naruto replied. The dragon god helps me if anything ever happens to Carol. A valiant reason to grow stronger, Sir Naruto of the Protective Watch. A knight could do no better. Naruto grinned, twisted around a little to make sure there was no lasting harm, and headed to dinner. He ate quietly, assuring Carol he was fine, and promising to read her favorite story to her tonight. And looking at her, he found his answer so simple, he couldn't believe it had been staring at him for so long. Naruto caught the 10th coin, and didn't look away from his father. Well done, son. I knew you would do it. Naruto had changed much over the 2 years. He was stronger, taller, and the fur had almost grown to completely cover his body. You may begin combat training now. Yes, father, Naruto said, smiling. So, what is your answer? Suzuka said, walking into the room from where she had been waiting. Naruto looked at her, and said, Carol is my reason. I have a family here. Precious people that mean more than my own life to me. Tusan and Ka-chan can defend themselves, but Carol cannot. Whatever my original reasons for wanting it, I want this now to make sure nothing ever happens to her. Suzuka watched him for a moment. That silence stretched out for a long time before she said anything. 5:30 in the morning, be outside ready. I will have a training weapon ready for you. You will first learn swordplay. Then, to draw out your mana. Finally, after learning all my skills, you will make your own weapon, from the heartwood of a tree grown on your magic. Yes, master, Naruto said, bowing. Naruto was ecstatic the rest of the day. Life couldn't have been more grand. He was grinning like a fox, as he laid on a grassy knoll when the face of his first friend entered his vision. You look happy, Ayam said to him. Naruto jumped to his feet, grinning. Ayam had changed in 2 years. 15. And she was a treasure hunter, an explorer. She was wearing goggles on her forehead, leathers over her body, and boots with a dagger in one of them. On her belt was some gear she needed, and more blades. She loved it, and did it often when not helping her father with the store. Tucci told him once he'd trade all the treasure in the world for one night not spent in worry. She had learned to fight, navigate above and below ground, trap building, and disarming all from the Uzumaki clan. I finally have a sensei, Naruto told her, his happiness evident in his voice. Great to hear, Ayam said, grinning. Every time I see you, you look different though. Wearing clothes like that, how do you keep the girls off you? Naruto still wore clothes like what he wore when he got to Yuzu. I only have to worry about 2. And even then, one of them just because she might kill me if I don't watch her. Conan and Din, Ayam said, remembering. Good luck with them then. Thanks. Hey, let's go get some lunch, Ayam-chan. Sure, Ayam agreed, smiling. Naruto took her inside, and began making them some sandwiches. As they ate, they just talked about her latest adventures when Carol came in. Ayam Wunchin. Carol jumped on her, and gave her a fierce hug. Hello Carol, Ayam said, returning the hug. How are you doing? I'm good. When can I go with you on a treasure hunt? When you're older. You said that 2 months ago. I'm older now. Fine. When you are your Oni-chan's age. Fui, Carol said, pouting. Naruto was grinning at them. So you have best be a good girl, Carol. It's hard work to be a treasure hunter. I'll do it for sure, she said, pumping a small fist into the air. Good, until then I'm counting on you to keep your brother in line, Ayam said, poking her nose. Ayam chuckled before saying, Naruto, Dad wants me back at the shop soon so I better go. I'll see you later. Alright, bye Ayam-chan. Naruto was up at 5, and outside at 5:30. He stood out there a moment before Suzuka walked up to him, holding a watch. 5:30. She held out a. This will be your training weapon. You are to have it with you at all times. In the mornings you will work with it, perfecting stances, and building muscle memory for katas. In mid-morning to after lunch, you will be learning to draw out your mana. Once you have, you will learn to control it instead. After 2, you will infuse your remaining mana into this. She gave him tree sapling. It will grow as you grow. Once you have perfected the skills, you will then carve your own from it, using nothing but the skills you possess, and your mana. Yes, master, Naruto said, shifting his grip on his sword. Come with me, Suzuka said before walking away. For the next month, you will not return home. You will be training with me out in the wilderness. You eat what you hunt. Yes, master. While there, I will also teach you to use this, she said, poking him on the forehead. Combat is more often determined by that than by strength. They walked for an hour until they were deep in the surrounding forest, but they weren't alone. Naruto saw dozens of warriors from all the clans training in the early morning light. "Master, why are so many here?" He looked to one of the Rand, a large man that wore plate armor, wielding a heavy hammer with a crystal head. He lifted up, waved his hand, and made it turn to a certain page. Seeing what he was looking for, he flexed the hand over the book, and this design of light appeared over it, and encircled his armor, making it glow. He lowered and swung the hammer up on his shoulder, his face set. Several circled him, all with stone gray skin, the stone skin spell used to protect people from attacks so that it may hit, but won't kill nor harm. They charged at him, and he grabbed the first by the neck, slamming the hammer on his chest in a blow that would have killed him without the protective spells. The Rand made a back swing without looking, cracking another up against their head, sending him back against the tree. That man's skin flashed stone and flesh a moment before the spell failed. The armored man then butted the head of his hammer into his latest attacker's stomach before giving him a punch that threw him away. As well, a hammer of light appeared in his hand, and he threw it at another, making it dissipate. "That's a paladin, he is," Rand Matrim of the Holy Order of the Light Suzuka confirmed. Matrim faced his last opponent, a woman wearing robes and holding a staff. The paladin charged her, and sent a blast of light at her only for it to hit a barrier, and break upon it like water on a rock. The woman smirked at the charging man before slamming the end of her staff down, making an explosion go off from her, knocking him from his feet. "Watch," he lost momentum. Matrim rolled back to his feet, swinging his hammer to gain room, as the attackers resurged forward. The man that lost his protection flipped over the hammer, and slashed with his daggers, leaving a mark of red blood over Matrim's neck and face. The paladin grimaced before the wound closed again. Naruto looked, and saw several healers waiting on the sidelines. A blur rushed past them. The first attacker was back on his feet, but with no weapons. The paladin tried to catch him again, but instead the man slipped out of the way, grabbed his hand, and flipped him onto the ground. "A martial artist. Come with me," Suzuka said, tearing his eyes away from them. They walked for a bit, and Naruto saw even more people training to fight. "Forget dozens, there must be hundreds," Naruto stated. "Why are they training so hard though?" Suzuka replied, "War is coming, Naruto, we can feel it in the air. We have felt it since you were taken 2 years ago. In that time, we have familiarized ourselves with things again, and we have seen that the other countries have been following a pattern. They will war until losses force them to stop. They will rebuild. And then, something will happen to start the war all over again. When they took you, they were trying to do just that." "What do you mean?" "Naruto, you were what was known as A is considered the ultimate tool of the village because of their ability to call upon the power of their bija. They were after Kyubi," Naruto realized. "Yes. Which means that they will regroup, and either try to find him again or go after the others." Naruto shook his head. "That won't do, I won't allow it." She sighed. "Naruto, I agree with you, and I know your feelings must be extreme on this matter, but there is nothing we can do. The 9 are scattered to the winds, and there will always be those that will desire their power. There must be some way to keep them from their hands, from making more people's lives miserable." "Yeah, take them yourself, and lock them away," Suzuka shook her head. "But then you're what you hate." She led Naruto deeper into the forest, far past the others. She stopped in a clearing near a waterfall. "This will be our camp. At night, and in your free time, what you do is your business so long as you stay away from towns." She knelt down, and drew a map of Yuzu with a little of the surrounding waters and land. "This is Yuzu, to the south is Mizu no Kuni. Now, the island's geography is this. Most of the shores are to the south, many cliffs cover the other edges. This island is an extinct volcano, the widest in the world. This was caused by a shift in the continental plate. It is over 200 miles across, 300 from stem to stern." She drew houses around some of the beaches. "The heat caused by the volcano makes the whirlpools that surround our home. It took many generations to map out a safe path and by boat. For this, we relied on one of the fish clans, the Morello. Merchants mostly. The only port is here, a few miles from the main clan estates. You, as well as a good many of the Uzumaki, live in a village formed by the head of the clan, and around 100 others, so they are able to communicate freely with each other while the rest of the clan maintains a certain part of Yuzu. The Sora, as a flying clan, make many homes in the trees, and prefer the warm climate." She drew a grassy plain with a house in the middle of the map. "Here are the Uzumaki, of course. Plain runners and hunters, you prefer open spaces." Where the plains ended, she started drawing mountains. "The northern peak is the active volcano, and home of the main estate of the Ryu. Here, the princes and princesses use the heat to smelt a rare metal called mithril, damn near impossible to work from its strength." "Why the princes and princesses?" "Because only, as dragons can they get close enough to do it." Then she started drawing dots in the mountains, and drew another large home on one of the cliffs. Finally, the main Rand estate, here to the east. They live in the mountains using their strength and ease of moving earth to mine the mithril from the old lava flows. There are many mines in those mountains, only they know them all. The Rand give the ore to the Ryu. The Ryu smelled it, and gave it to the smiths here, one the West Beach head. The smiths are from all clans, using magic to make the mithril malleable, and then shape it. We are here, north of the Sora, south of the Uzumaki. Now let's begin. Sora Velvet isn't your usual windman, he was far from it. Growing up, he had no talent for magic of any form. Not even, as a shaman. He grew up strong, like his father, Ryusuke. His wings were silver in color, like his father, feathered like his mother, and the perfect blend of both in looks. Yet, despite the powerful magic heritage of both clans, it just wasn't in him. Instead, he was strong, very strong. He learned quickly his large size, and strength was a unique attribute that was vital for the Pathfinders, the scouts of Yuzuno Kuni. He possessed the warrior strength of the Ryu, and the flight and stealth of the Sora. Right now, he was floating on the wind currents and rising heat of Kaze no Kuni. From the ground, he looked like a large bird, and that was how he preferred it. Today, like most days, was just lazily sailing the winds, not really much to see. An explosion of sand reaching several hundred feet into the air changed that. He looked to it, and with his eagle-like eyes saw several figures attacking a child, at least a dozen, and they were being slaughtered. The boy willed the very sands to slay his attackers. Velvet stopped, floating on the breeze, and watched, feeling something very familiar, and not liking it. He was a warrior, to be precise a dark knight. Through rune-crafted weapons, he was able to perform magic, unholy magic, as some called it. Originally they were a sect of once paladins sworn to defeat demons with their own evil power. Their power was second to few when they reached their peak, and while Velvet wasn't near that strong yet, he was powerful. So when he fell in the sand, and boy, it meant one of two things. It wasn't a boy at all, a demon in human form, or it was a boy possessed by a demon. And considering that most demons had vanished from the world, it was unlikely to be the first. He pulled out an amulet from under his armor, and pressed the rune on it. An illusion of Sora Aoi appeared before him. "Milady, I bring amazing words. I believe I found one of them. A boy in Kaze no Kuni is currently fighting off several attackers at once." Aoi looked to where he motioned. "I shall inform the ladies these. Hold your position. If he tries to leave, capture him. No harm is to come to him." "Yes, milady." The illusion vanished, and he took to circling them like a vulture. It was a short battle, the boy killing them all, and showing no regret. He looked the same age as Princess Diana. Terrible things can happen to any child. His charm glowed again, and the illusion appeared, this time of Lady Blue. "Yes, milady?" She blinked, and grinned. "Velv, I haven't seen you since that summer you turned 15. I thought that was a wonderful night, and here I'm told you have a gift for me. One of them? I'm going to have to consider taking you to dinner soon." He blushed. Blue-san, is Lady Aoi there?" "Oh yes I am. I came from beyond the illusion." Velvet swallowed the lump in his throat. Some other time." "You order?" "Catch," the illusion of Blue said, tossing something to him. He reached for it on reflex, and actually caught something. That spell scroll suppresses his demon, leaving him, as weak, as a child, and sending him to sleep. "Capture him, and return him to me if at all possible. If you deem you can't, don't try, don't be seen." And to that effect Blue cast the spell, and he turned invisible. "You have 30 seconds before the spell wears off. More than enough time." He dropped into a dive, and aimed right for the boy. He was about to read the scroll when the sand came alive again, and started to attack him. Seeing he was still invisible, he realized the sand attacks any threat, seen and unseen. "Whoever you are, come out so I can kill you, and prove my existence." A person's existence is proven not by how they kill, but how they live, boy, Velvet told him, running out of time fast. He couldn't read it, as he needed to be closer for it to work. A quick look said he was alone. "No allies? I need none, but my mother," the boy told him. "Hey, you say that now." The spell failed, and Velvet appeared before him. Gaara had never seen anything like the man that now stood before him. Silver wings, and hair, he wore shiny silver, black trim armor. At his sides were weapons, several of them. 2 long swords, an axe, and mace, and this spear blade on a foot-long shaft. And Yuzu. Yeah, good guess. He grabbed the spear, and it extended to full length. "I must thank you for the bodies." He stabbed the spear tip into the ground, and the sand turned black, spreading to the 10 meters around him. This green miasma rose from the ground, and touched the corpses before they rose to their feet once more. Gaara gaped at them, shocked. He took a step back, and they took that, as the signal to charge. His sand came alive once again, crushing them once more, but the bodies reformed, and charged at him again. "St, stay back," he screamed, terrified. All at once, they stopped, and fell apart. "Huh!" He tried to turn around, but found two skeletal arms coming from the ground held him in place. Finally you stopped moving, Velvet said behind you. "I knew if I couldn't move to you, I would move you to me." He read the scroll, and Gaara slumped forward. Picking the boy up, he flew into the sky in time to see in the distance Gaara's escorts back to Suna. Holding out his spear, the file magic returned to the runes carved into it, returning the sand to normal. Gaara was gone, the wind destroyed all signs of them, and they would be none the wiser as to why. Yugura set his cup of tea down, smiling at Rand al'Thor. "I do thank you for meeting with me." al'Thor took a swallow of his tea, and sighed. "Quite all right, at least it would be if you had stronger chairs." The chair he had sat down in was not only too small, but too weak, and had broke. "A little sugar and cream for the tea would be nice, thank you." The secretary had shakily put both inside his cup, and if she would stop shaking and clutching at that kunai when she thinks I'm not looking, that would be nice too. "Hoshi, this is our guest," Yugura told her, not that he blamed the woman. Rand al'Thor intimidated many people, including the Mizukage, though he was as soft as a kitten and less angered. "Why yes, Mizukage-sama." She bowed her head, and walked out. al'Thor took a swallow of his tea, and sighed. "Though, I must admit, I was a little hesitant when I heard the most distasteful rumor that you were waging war and persecution against those with bloodline abilities. And of course, you know that would count, as most of the people of Yuzu no Kuni. Though I also heard that these last few years, you have eased up on that. By chance, it didn't cause our interruption of the Kage summit, did it?" Yugura took a deep breath, thought how to word it without casting himself in a dark light, and decided to just say it. "Yes, it was." "I see. So, what did you want to talk about?" "I would think that simple. Though Yuzu no Kuni is a small country, the strength of the country is in no doubt to me. If Yuzu plans to start or go to war, I would rather it not be against Mizu no Kuni, especially if the dragon that attacked Konoha is involved. Though she doesn't really concern herself too much in the wars of the rest of the world, she does take seriously anyone that threatens her family. And, as a war would likely bring upon her children, I would say there is a chance she will get involved," al'Thor admitted. "So, this is all to save your butts?" "Yes. The land of Yuzu itself is a fortress, damn near impossible to approach, much less breach. Unassailable mountains, violent maelstrom. Then there is the people themselves. It is a battle not even worth thinking about, so eventually attacking Yuzu is out of the question, which means we would be on the defensive the whole time. Yuzu doesn't have any territories, and is mostly self-sufficient. No other country can say that. So a war with it isn't in the best interest of Mizu. Neither is killing off your people, driving away your warriors, and acting like a tyrant," al'Thor stated. "I've made some bad decisions, I know, and some I can't even explain why, but I am asking for your help to prevent the worst I could ever make. The dragon clan descending on my village will destroy us, that is it." "You hold the cards, sir," I admitted. Rand al'Thor looked him over a bit before rising. "I must use the restroom, and while I do, I shall consider what you have told me, and the efforts you have made to change for the better." He walked out of the office, nodded to his guards, 2 warrior priests of the dragon god from the Rand clan, and went to the bathroom. He really didn't need to use it, just that he needed to get away from the man. Yugura gave off an odd feeling, one he didn't like. He noticed it 2 years ago, and it is weaker now than then, but it was still there. Washing his hands, he looked in the mirror for a moment to see a boy had entered behind him, and was waiting patiently for him to notice. "Can I help you?" "Not myself, sir, but hopefully, my father you can." al'Thor turned to him, and looked him over. The boy was just entering his teens, but looked like he would be a bit feminine. "Name of you, and your father?" "I am Haku, sir. My father is Mamachi Zabuza. He and a few others would very much like to speak to you before you return to the Mizukage." Rand looked in the direction of Yugura, and could hear him still in his office. "Very well, Haku, lead the way." Following him out, he went down the hall into a meeting room. There, waiting for him, was a red-haired woman with one eye covered, and a ring on her left hand, 2 of the 7 swordsmen of Mist, and a ninja with an eye patch over his right eye. "Yes?" Rand al'Thor. The taller swordsman said with a bow, "I am Zabuza, this is my wife, Mei, my fellow swordsman, Chojuro, and this is Ao. We need your help, concerning Yugura." al'Thor sighed. "I am not helping you assassinate him." "No, not that kind of help," Chojuro insisted. "Ao, tell him, what I am about to reveal is worthy of treason. I have a Byakugan eye under this eye patch. It has let me see through many illusions in the time I've had it. 2 years ago, its vision of the Mizukage was altered a little, and I eventually realized that it was an illusion I was seeing placed on him. The night you revealed yourselves, that illusion started to break. We cannot break it alone, he is too strong. But maybe with your help it is possible. Arthur looked behind him. So that is what I sense from him. Very well, consider it done. Now if you will excuse me, I need to return. Without waiting, he turned around and headed back. Yagura, after much consideration, I have decided I cannot accept, as things stand. I must first do something. What is that? This Ramon, Peter seals him. The two burst into the room, and in moments, chanted their spell, and placed seals on Yagura to restrain him. What is this betrayal? Outside, the secretary screamed that they were assassinating the Mizukage. He is being controlled, Arthur told the two before they all started going through the same chants. Light encased Arthur's right hand before he rushed forward, and slammed his fist on Yagura's forehead. With a flash of light, several dark runes appeared between the fist and head in a circle. In the name of the dragon god, lord of all creation, father of the two sisters, the sun and moon, I command you to be gone from this man. Yagura began to scream in pain before the runes shattered, and the punch carried through. Hitting the ground rather hard, he blinked at the ceiling a few minutes before gripping his head. Motherfucker! What hit me? He sat up, and cupped his head. Hoshi, get me some Tylenol. He shakily stood up, and reached for his chair. Man, that hurts. Sitting down, he looked to where the woman was still screaming. Damn it, woman, shut up, and get me some blasted Tylenol. He dropped his head on his desk before looking at Arthur and his guards. After a moment, everything came back to him, and he said, could you have done it without splitting my head like a melon? All three of them shrugged. The dragon god is a very physical god for his warriors, Ramon replied. Yeah, just be glad you don't have to get the healing hand spell, Peter told him. Feel better? Arthur asked him. Clearer. Hoshi, a bag of ice too. He groaned before looking at him again. So where were we? We were just getting to asking what we wanted from each other. You said you wanted to avoid fighting Yuzu. I am about to say to stop this blood wars of yours. All of it. As well as that demon inside you gone. Done. Hoshi gave him the ice, a cup of water, and the painkillers. Thank you. He swallowed the pills, drank the water, set the ice on his head, and passed out. Arthur looked at the two, and shrugged. All in all, a very productive day. Day 4. Suzuka-sensei showed me a few stances, and said that now that I had the positions right, as well as the moves, I was to spar with her. Am I grateful she isn't using her mana right now? Even with her going easy on me, it only took her 3 moves before she broke through my guard, hitting my stomach then, as I bent over, bringing her down on my back. By that afternoon, my chakra was working overtime to heal the bruises. Drawing out mana is very different from chakra. It only requires refining the mental energies with your will, not your physical. Suzuka isn't very strong physically. I'm probably stronger, but I have no doubt she could fight my father now. Thankfully, I didn't pass out while meditating today from my wounds. I did yesterday, and she threw me in the river. Thankfully, she understands that it takes energy from me to heal, and hasn't threatened to drop me as her apprentice if I do it again. But I get the feeling if it happens too many times more, she will. After that, she had me feed the sapling with what mana I have left. Easier to work with chakra, but mana is stronger, more potent. I can't help but wonder why there are more ninjas than magic users in the world. Tired now, can barely write ja any. Day 8. Good news, it took Master 10 moves to put me on the ground today, and said I was getting stronger already. Just before hitting me upside the head for dropping my guard. A reminder that we were still sparring. The main point of this was muscle memory, that I won't even have to think about the move, and my body will begin to flow through it, to hone my reflexes to see it coming though my eyes cannot. I don't know if that's happening, the days just seem to blur into one big beating. If nothing else though, Conan won't be able to beat me up after the end of this month. Day 9. This was not what I had in mind for improvement. She had me performing the katas under the waterfall to help build speed. If I didn't see her do the same thing, I would have called her crazy. On the plus side, I now know for a fact that she doesn't wear her kimono to the water. No, she wears a 2-piece bikini. Sorry, Master just hit me upside the head again. I'm going to stop before the pain starts. Naruto even opened his eyes, as Suzuka sat up to wake him up. He climbed out of his sleeping bag, and started stretching. Day 17, he muttered before grabbing his daggers, and walking into the stream. He raised one, as he closed his eyes. He didn't move for several minutes before the dagger raced down into the water, stabbing a fish in the side, and pulling it from the water. He licked his lips, as it struggled against the knife for a few moments before dying. Going to the campfire, he grabbed a piece of flint, and struck it against his free dagger, sparking up another fire. Sticking the fish on a stick, and the stick in the ground to hold it near the fire, he jogged off into the forest, sniffing around. Smelling something sweet, he followed it to a berry bush. Trying one, he smirked that they were the right amount of bitter, and sweet. Collecting a few, he placed them in a pouch at his side. He hunted around for a few roots, and found his favorite, a flower commonly known as king's blood for the red-tipped flowers. The petals were poisonous, but the roots made a good flavoring. Sticking it with the berries, he stuck his nose in the air once again. What he heard, not smelled, nearly made his mouth water. Looking around, he spotted a beehive with plenty of honey. Looking around, he found a sleep root. Works best in a tea, but it'll make a worn docile if you inhale the smoke from it burning. Cutting off only what he needed, he turned it into a torch, and saved the rest. Lighting it, he threw it near the tree hole that the hive was in. The smoke billowed into it, and the bees simply fell asleep. Going to it, he broke off some of the honeycombs, and took the burning root away so they could wake up soon. Getting a few leaves for tea, he headed back. Crushing the berries, the king's blood root, and mixing some of the honey with it, he glazed the fish over, and ate it happily. He saved the rest of the honey for the next fish while finishing this meal with some tea. Suzuka watches him go about this with a little interest. When she said you eat what you hunt, she expected him to maybe stumble about with traps, try to kill the rabbit he might have caught, and argue with wildlife over the things he did catch. She looked down at her meager-looking breakfast in comparison to his, and looked away. She was a great fighter, not the best hunter, the dried beef, and weak tea said as much. She looked up when she smelled him cooking something else. He pulled a hot stone from the fire, and placed a bowl full of water with some berry juice, bananas, and a bit of honey on it to slow boil near the fire. The water will turn into something like syrup, going right through the peel, and turning the banana into a kind of candy. And worst, she knew it would taste good because he made it before, and it smelled very good, especially when still hot. And he only made enough for himself. She said you eat what you catch, and he took it literally. No doubt if she asked he would offer, but not likely until then. Shall we begin, master? Once I finished, she said with a very slight sigh. Maybe she should have learned this a while ago. Naruto shrugged, and began going through his forms. He was doing them slowly, aiming for perfection first, and then speeding them up. All with his eyes closed so he could rely on the feel, and not the sight. He knew his master was watching to spot the holes, and if she caught them before he did, she would make him hurt for it. The question was, could he catch it before his master? He left a hole in his defense over his right shoulder and, as expected, Suzuka went in to strike him. Except Naruto turned, expecting the attack, knocking the thrust to the side, and reversing his strike to place the blade by her throat. Assumption is the biggest of all mistakes, is it not, sensei? It is, she replied before Naruto felt tapping on the inside of his leg. Looking down, he saw her was there, having just cut him in half had she followed through. In her outstretched hand was a stick. You corrected that mistake already, Naruto, and you don't make the same mistake twice. Naruto sighed. He should have seen that coming. Yes, master. But not a bad plan though, she said, dropping the stick. Let us begin. The morning passed quickly, and soon enough, Naruto was focusing his mana down to his hands. Master, may I make an assumption? Remember your own statement, Naruto. I will. It's about chakra and mana. Very well, you may. Chakra is in part mana just with physical energy added to it, correct? It is. Mana is stronger, faster, and more useful, yes? You're right so far. But chakra is more prevalent around the world over mana because it is easier? And how do you come to that realization? Because I learned how to first control my chakra right from the start with the Hokage. It didn't take 2 weeks to get it to come forth, yet this has taken longer than that, but I'm not getting it. Well, you're right. Chakra is weaker, but it is easier to learn. Most of the world doesn't even remember mana exists. She turned to the lunch she was preparing. Though you are progressing remarkably fast. You do have a handle on it already. Incredible in my opinion. This month was supposed to be spent introducing you into being a spellblade, not actually training. You are going very strongly, a natural. She sat down, a frown beginning to crease her features. Sensei, something wrong? Something a great man once wrote concerning a new weapon, an arquebus, a rifle. Naruto blinked. Don't we have something like that? Something like. This man was a ranger, and a weapons master. He knew how to pick up any weapon, and fight with it. He commented on the arquebus that it was a thing that should have never been made. Not that it could have possibly replaced him, and us, but that it was powerful. I don't understand. Look at a master swordsman, and an arquebus user. The swordsman has spent years learning not only how to wield his sword, but also when to wield his sword, to respect the strength that holding that blade gives to you. He and his sensei spent time together, learning if the student was truly worthy of being the student. Years, by that time, all those that would abuse the power have likely been removed. Then there is the arquebus user. He picks up the weapon that he can buy, learns to use it through a book, and then decides to kill someone, an action that can be done in less than 2 years. He has no concept of restraint, just his own desires. And I'm going through it too fast, aren't I? Naruto questioned. Yes and no, Naruto. You are putting out the effort. You are learning what each action truly does. You know and respect the power, as well as the responsibility, that comes with this weapon. I have no problem with that. Then what is it? Another spellblade, my senpai. He was a natural, like you. But our sensei decided to pass the mastership to me instead of him, and I didn't understand why. So he tried to force me to give it up to him. He attacked me, and I responded. He hit me, I hit him, and in the end, I was on the ground. You lost? Yes. He beat me mercilessly, and when he stood over me, he looked to our sensei, and said, "This is your successor, sensei. This whipped little girl. I should be the one." I could barely move to see my sensei's face. So you aren't the master of the spell blades? I am Naruto. My master looked at him in disdain, pure disdain. You fool, he said. He actually insulted the one I looked up to, sensei's star pupil. You know nothing. Look at yourself. You see, Naruto, I left a bruise on his every vitality. But never did I use mana, like he did. I cared for my senpai that much. She did that to you in a single pass, the first one. If she wanted, she could have left you a broken pile of meat. I had worked hard for sensei to acknowledge me, and he did. But senpai didn't let it go. Does it look like she won? I was heartbroken. I thought he had cared for all of us, as we did him. He just cared for the power. Sensei had thought he could change him, but he didn't. Who was he? He was my first love, and my first kill. Now get back to your meditations. Suzuka stood up, and walked away, leaving Naruto to continue alone. Konan was lying down on the carpet, hugging a pillow to her chest, rather dejected. Tiga had been no little worried about his charge, and adopted a daughter. She seemed to have lost all luster for life, and in her fur, as well. Alright, kitten, what's wrong? Just bored. Bored? Surely you can find something to do. I can, and don't call me Shirley. She sighed again before rolling onto her other side, her tail twitching every now and then. Konan, dear, what's wrong? Rinpa asked. My favorite toy is gone. A toy? Tiga shook his head. His adopted daughter was pining for a doll or something? Uzumaki Konan, I won't have my daughter lying about, pining for some lost toy. Especially when you have enough, as is. But Tusan, no buts. If it bothers you so much, I'll buy you a new one, or better yet, you can go out and work for the money to get a new one. Konan looked at him quizzically before saying, Where am I supposed to buy a new Naruto? Tiga sputtered incoherently while Rinpa gave a great, shaking laugh. Naya, do they make him down the street? Are there just a few couples that spend all night making a new Naruto? Tiga began to blush, as well as sputter while both his wife and daughter enjoyed his embarrassment. Is it hard to do? What do you do? I bet making a Naruto is lots of fun. Both girls were almost laughing so hard they would have fallen over if they weren't already on the ground. Rinpa, deal with your daughter. Tiga rushed from the room while Konan meowed after him, going, Do they make them by the dozen or does it take a long time for one? Naya, Tusan, do you assemble the parts or does it just happen, maybe force it in? She gave a final before the front door slammed behind him. When finally Konan settled down again, Tiga came back inside. So, Naruto is your toy? Naya, Konan confirmed. And, as your toy you want to play with him, Naya, but you can't, Naya. The two adults shared a look. Konan, you can't just call someone your toy, Rinpa said to her. But he is, and now he's gone, and I'm lonely. Like it isn't, as alive. There's no challenge, no reason to get up. And if he was here, Rinpa asked, I'd hug him. Then I'd tug on his tail, making him chase me. Maybe give him the Konan drop kick again. Tiga sighed, shaking his head. You can't do that, he isn't a toy you can do what you want with. Shaking his head, he looked to his wife, dismissing anything his daughter wanted along those lines. I just saw Princess Din, she was going to see D's, and Ray to see if Naruto came back yet. Konan's tail stopped twitching. No need to ask why, Rinpa stated. Seen how she's been flaring her feathers when he's around. Remember Din's aunt, she used to do it with Ray before he fell in love with D's. Bird brains, Konan mumbled. Rinpa agreed. As if Ray never loved D's. He has been pining for her since before he was your age, Konan. But I think it might be different with Din and Naruto. How? Konan asked, suddenly very interested. Well, for starters, Din is Naruto's friend, Rinpa replied. Din's aunt, Mihoshi, just decided she cared for him, as far as anyone could tell, right out of the blue. Din knows everything about Naruto, and him her. It's all, but assured that they'll be married together. Haven't you noticed, Konan? Tiga asked her. They've been friends for longer than he has with you, Rinpa told her. No, he's my toy, I won't let him. She stood up only to be cuffed by Tiga. Konan, you will stop this at once. For the last time, Naruto isn't a toy. He is the son of the leader of our clan, and your friend. What do you think you are to him, That's easy. I'm his toy. Tiga stared at her blankly while Rinpa began to giggle again. Then he stood up, and walked outside, again saying, deal with your daughter. Giggling a bit more, Rinpa looked at her daughter, and said, you have one odd description of friendship. Konan tilted her head, put on a Cheshire cat, smiled, raised a hand like a paw to her cheek, and said, Naya. Naruto was walking back to the clan home next to Suzuka, the month over now. He had enjoyed his time out there, reminding him of spending time with the old man. In his hands was the practice sword, as well as the sapling. It had grown well in the month, feeding on his mana. But it would still take a while before both it and he were ready. Will you be staying with us, sensei? In a guest house, Suzuka told him. Good. Oh, sensei, why didn't you ever ask me for help with food? I said you eat what you catch, not someone else. If I didn't hold myself to that rule, how could I expect you to? Naruto nodded, understanding what she meant, but also knowing that she was a woman of no little pride, and, as such, she probably couldn't ask him anyway. They had just entered the Uzumaki home when Naruto suddenly got the distinct impression that they, or more likely he, was in rival territory. He narrowed his eyes, and said, excuse me, sensei. Setting the sapling by the wall, he crouched, and crawled into the tall grass, using his striped fur to help him vanish into it. Suzuka stood there a moment, while she watched this game of cat and mouse. She noticed something to the side, and smirked. Naruto roundhouse kick! Naruto shouted, springing into a spinning kick to hit the thing she noticed. What fell was a scarecrow wearing some of Conan's spare clothes. Oh! Conan power bomb! Conan dropped out of the tree, doing an elbow drop right on Naruto, driving him into the ground. I win again, putty tat, she said, leaning over at the waist, one hand held up in AV, the other on her hips, her eyes closed, and Cheshire Cat smiled once more, ringing the bell around her neck. As she straightened, she clasped her hands behind her back. Naruto, what? He asked, a bit grumpily at once again losing. What do you think of Din? Huh? She's one of my best friends, why? And me? Well, you constantly attack me, beat on me, call me a putty tat when I've told you not to, and Conan itchy knee. Conan gave him a strong left strike followed by a right hook that left the first in the dust. You are useless. She spun around, and ran away. Naruto lay on the ground, his eyes spinning around in their sockets. This is why I don't like girls. Suzuka looked after Conan, and then went back to Naruto. Give it time. Just look at the little cutesy, Blue said, leaning down to look at Gaara before looking at the man that held him. Velv, the Dark Knight, bowed his head to her, a smile on his face. He had caught Blue at the beach, and she was still wearing her bikini. And look at you. She gave an exaggerated shiver. Give me a chill, seeing you in all that leather and metal. I think I'll just have to have you for dinner sometime. That just made him smile wider. A pleasure seeing you, as well, Blue-chan. One, as promised. Cradling the sleeping boy, he walked into her magic room, only to stop when he felt something attack his greaves. Looking down, he saw a blood-red, nine-tailed menace trying to chew on him. No, Kyubi, bad, Blue scolded, grabbed a spray bottle, and squirted him with water. Damn you, woman, the little fox yelled, running from the water. She smiled again, and turned back to Velv. Now, just place him like a buzzsaw. Kyubi jumped on her tail. Feel my power! Excuse me a moment. Kyubi, what did I say about lying off the coffee? You're too high-strung. So what if I am? No, no more. This is why I can't take you out with me. Velvet really didn't understand where she got the new familiar, just that it was a demon, nine-tailed fox, big enough to fit in her bag, and with a collar. Now you are good. Or I swear, she said in a sing-song voice, you'll put girl jewelry on your collar? No, then be nice. She pulled out the bell on a string, and dangled it for him to play with. Who's a cute little demon fox? The fox, which had been in the middle of playing with the bell, stopped. What happened to my life? He lamented. It was going so well, I would destroy everything, kill by the thousands. Now look at me? Is this some kind of divine punishment? Layden, the dragon god, works in mysterious ways, Blue told him, letting go of the string. It stayed in the twitching this way, and that making him bad at it again. Blue led Valve to her magic circle. Where's the seal? No seal that I know of. Haven't seen one. Himgara floated in the air over to her before all, but his small clothes vanished. You're right, there is no seal. She turned around, as a thick tomb came over to her, and Gaara floated down to a table. La 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 la. Cauldron, come here please. A black cauldron hopped over to her. Fire please. One lit under the pot. Water in. Some of it floated in from the sink. Double double, toil, and trouble, fire burn, and cauldron bubble. She giggled, as she continued, fillet of a fenny snake, in the cauldron boil, and bake. eye of newt, and toe of frog. Said items floated from their jars, and came over to be dropped in the pot once everything else was gotten. Wool of bat, and tongue of dog, adder's fork, and blindworm's sting, lizard's leg, and owlet's wing. For the charm of hay. Velvet jumped at her, suddenly breaking her chant. Lizard leg first, then owlet wing. Get in the correct order. The owlet wing leaned to the side to look up the line in front of it. Yes, I see you there, get in your spot. Then all of you into the pot. It hopped back behind the leg. That's better. For a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth boil, and bubble. Velvet leaned forward to see what she was making. What is it? Well, unless I translated this wrong, she took a sip from it. Very good. Lunch. Velvet's nearly face faulted into the floor. Then why the worry about which went in first? That'll affect how it's flavored, Blue told him. Cauldron, simmer for 20 minutes. Spoon, stir gently. She moved back to Gaara. Ooh, just look at those cute eyes. Like a tanuki. She hugged her arms to her chest, and squealed. He does look like one, a bit, but he's just a boy. And we both know. He stepped up behind her, and was whispering in her ear, men are far better than boys. That is so true, Blue agreed. Play later. Let me get a feel for him. Knowing better than to interfere with magic, he stepped back while she picked Gaara up, and hugged him to her with his head resting on her shoulder. He moved a bit in his sleep, and hugged her back. There, Blue said, easily telling he was having a bad dream. It's all right now. He settled down, saying the one word all women understood. He was asking for his mother in his dreams. Closing her eyes, she began to flow mana into him, testing the resonance. It wasn't as accurate as looking in the seal, but it worked as well. When her mana touched the demon's energy, she began to see a picture of it. A vast desert, sand stretching in all directions, with the wind blowing harshly, all in the shape of a tanuki with a single tail. Easing Gaara back down to the table, she brushed a strand of hair from his face. I'm kind of surprised he slept this long. His sleep deprivation, Velvet informed her. The demon remains locked away, but for him, he wakes up every now and then, startled, but soon returns to it again. Poor dear. Caressing his cheek a moment longer, she turned to her book stand. Let's see. What are you looking for? Encyclopedia Demonica. He blinked a few times at that. Did you just say? Oh yes. Here it is. She picked up a heavy, leather-bound book, and set it on her desk. Wind Demons. The book turned to that section. Desert terrain. Bookmarks appeared on a few that matched. Shaped like a giant tanuki with a single tail. All but one vanished. The book opened itself to that page. Here it is. I should have recognized him. It's the Achibi. Kyubi, found your brother. Good, I wanted someone new to torment. The mice are all afraid now. Blue waved her hand back to the shelf, making the book return, and said, Anyway, Velvet, why are you so shocked? Those books there are Encyclopedia Magica, a list of some of the most powerful magic items in the world. She motioned to 3 books bound in blue, red, and green, with invisible scribes still penning information. He walked over to the blue book, and saw it writing down a name for another item. Cutter. A Bakken formed from a tree-fed mana, and the remaining energy of a demon. Its blade is unnaturally strong, and sharp at will. Carved into the hilt by its own will is a demon fox with 9 tails. At will the edge is sharp or dull, capable of cutting right through mithril armor. It is a blade with its own intelligence, able to speak through telepathy to the wielder. He let out a whistle at that. Does it list where they are? I might try to find Cutter myself. Cutter, eh? She came over to him, and took a peek. Sorry, it's still being penned. So, that means it's just being made. This is all that is known about it now. He looked at the books again, and saw it had stopped Cutter, working on the item behind it, with Cutter moving down, as it wrote. Who's writing? The spirits of the dead. They have little else to do, so they decided to pool their knowledge on magic. Shift your sight to the Shadow Realm, you'll see them. Velv did, only to see the room begin to change. Figures stood all around him. Objects cleared away, and voices came into focus. More information on Aegis Fong. I need to find Kazudhi. A man in Nami no Kuni is starting construction on a bridge. The first bricks are magical. People were running around everywhere, taking notes, shouting, running memos. It looked like the stock market. It actually made Velvet's sweat drop when he saw a board on the wall with percentages, numbers, and names. He returned his vision to normal, looked to Blue, and said, You know, for dead people, they're in a bit of a hurry. How do they know all this? They're dead. They see things that we never could. A single spirit could hold as much, or even more knowledge than me about anything that catches their interest. So your house just happens to be the broker room for all this knowledge. She gave him a fox-like grin. Why do you think I chose it, besides the beach? This is a ley line, an important place for those that are dead. When I moved in, They were already using the Shadow Realm building for their own usage. But why are they doing it? To actually affect something substantial. They're ghost spirits from hell and heaven, where nothing changes, only Earth does. They watch it, and wish they could be part of it again. But they can't, it's not their place. But those books, she looked at the red one which had opened again, and information began being penned while green closed. To affect them in one is to affect them in the other. It is real, it can be held, it can be touched, it can be loved, and it can be destroyed. The rush it gives them, the excitement, is more than they've had since they were alive. That is why they are so busy, because they all want a chance to touch the living world. She moved back to Gaara, and began casting a spell. After several minutes she stopped, and frowned. Nothing, but children pretending to be a mage, she growled, as she moved to her circle. What? The fools sealed the Ichibi inside Gaara while he was still inside the womb, partially combining their souls. Moreover, this isn't the first time it's happened to Ichibi, it's happened twice before. And it is corrupting him, and them. The only way to halt the damage is to remove him from the host, thus killing the human. Most of the human soul is stripped away, leaving a sliver of insanity and pain behind. They are little more than children, the ones that did this. It won't be easy to undo the damage of this. So the boy will die? Not if I can help it. After all, I am D's. She moved to her circle, chanting words so powerful, they slipped from the minds of all that heard them. It sounded just like singing a wordless tune. Blue could carry a note real well. The circle began to spin, and shift, and then layers were added to it, followed by rings. He had to look away because it was overloading his magic sight. The first time in a while, he opened his flight lenses, a protective lens in the eyes of all Sora to protect their eyes during flight. They were often enchanted to allow the sight of mana and magic. Looking now without it, he saw the most beautiful display of lights and shimmering colors. To be able to see the flow of magic without his lenses, he would have gone blind if he kept them up. A mirror circle appeared on the ceiling, as well as the walls. He could feel the magic resonating with his armor and weapons. After 15 minutes, the longest he had ever seen her take to change a single rune circle, she picked Gaara up again, and took him to the circle. "Sorry little one," she said before she began chanting once more. When the first pit of magic came from Gaara, Velvet felt his senses like they were on fire. A demon, pure and powerful, was coming here. He readied a sword, an axe, should he need to defend Blue from it. Gaara opened his eyes to see a woman, holding her arm out, bracing it with the other, chanting while a raccoon dog was suspended in the air, lights holding it in place, binding it against its will, while shadow began to gather behind it. It took form, and Gaara screamed in fear, scrambling to get away from it, tripping on something furry that hurt when he stepped on it. Above him, the dark-armored man that summoned the dead to fight him stood at the ready, sword, an axe held between the raccoon dog, and Gaara, and the woman. The shadow figure was a robed figure with long, thin hands meant for reaching inside something, and taking from it. It wore what looked like a horn mask, but was really its face, and in its teeth was a dagger. The figure was death. "I banish you from this world. Begone spirits, leave not in anger," the woman shouted. Death took its dagger from its mouth, and slashed it across the raccoon dog, drawing two things from it that was then sent away in a flash of light. Death vanished, and the raccoon dog fell to the ground. "What was that?" Velvet demanded. "That was exactly as it looked like. Death came here, and he took the soul's slivers away." She sighed before she picked up the raccoon dog. "Wake up, Shikaku," she whispered, invoking its real name. Shikaku opened its eyes, tired and hurting. "What mortal summons me?" "My name is D's Demon, and I am no mortal," she replied. Ichibi looked at her and smirked. Well, it's you. A pleasure to meet you. I am yours to command. I think I'll take a nap now." Blue placed the tuckered-out raccoon dog on the table before looking to Gaara. "And there you are, cutesy." She moved over to him, where he realized she was part snake. She reached to the side of his head, and rubbed his ears, calming him down immensely. "Feeling okay?" "I do," Gaara told her, relaxed for some reason. "That little tanuki is the Ichibi that was sealed within you, Gaara." "How did?" "Because I am the best," Blue told him. "You survived because I wanted you to. The person that sealed Ichibi inside you bound its soul to yours. I couldn't free it without either cutting off a sliver of your soul or his. And, as he is a demon, he will recover, you would not. So I left a bit of him inside you, and purged it from your soul, by binding it to your body. There are a few differences in you now, but nothing horrible." "What's different?" She conjured a mirror before him, showing him that a good portion of his body was now covered in dark fur, though his hair remained red. His ears had changed, now were pointed, and covered in fur the color of his hair. His cheeks had red lines much like whiskers leading from his nose to ears, and an actual mask surrounded his eyes. His belly was bare, but his back was covered in red fur, as were his legs with a ringed tail coming from the end of his tailbone. On his toes, and the ball of his feet was a pad. Inspection of his arms showed them without fur, but he had a pad in his palm, and on the tips of his fingers. The difference is that you are going to drive the girls wild now, Blue replied before hugging the confused boy to her chest. Ooh, he's too cute. Deez and Naruto walked into Blue's home, looking around. Hey, a tanuki! He knelt down in front of the sleeping raccoon dog, and scratched his ears. The raccoon dog growled in content, and said, right there ooh, left ear now. Naruto blinked and said, are you like Kyubi? I'm a chibi. Right ear now, boy. Naruto started scratching that one. So, you know why we're here, Mr. Ichibi? Might have to do with the boy in the next room, Ichibi replied before rolling onto his back. Belly now. Naruto smirked, as he found this one spot that made the demon tanuki start kicking one of his paws. You die, came the squeaky voice of Kyubi, as he lunged for Naruto's face. Kyubi sit, Blue called. Kyubi went from flying through the air to slamming down into the floor with all the force of a sledgehammer. Naruto, smiling like a child, scooped up both demons, and began petting them. Ichibi took it far better, letting the boy smooth out his fur. Kyubi, on the other hand, tried to scratch Naruto until he started rubbing the spot under his jaw and the front of his neck. Moaning, Kyubi said, one day, ooh, I'll get my, right there, revenge. Glad to see you three so happy, Blue said, moving over to him. I'd let you pet my third one, but he's a bit waterlogged. She motioned to a large fish tank with an alligator snapping turtle larger than a dinner plate with 3 tails in it. Just look at Ichibi, so well behaved. Such a nice little guy. Kyubi slapped a paw to the back of Ichibi's head. Have you no pride? As long as I'm fat and happy, none in the least. He turned over in Naruto's arms, slapping Kyubi in the face with his tail. So what if we spend a few centuries as her pets? There are worse fates, I know. Here, we don't have to worry about being sealed inside something. We can go outside and play. So long as we don't go too far, we can eat as we wish. Plus, if you just accept it, Blue will probably pet you like she does me. Never, Kyubi squeaked in outrage. Sanbai, Ichibi called. Is this better or worse? Easy for you to say, you aren't in a fish tank, the turtle replied. But better, much better. He swam to the side of his tank where a magic button was, pressed it, and ate the fish that was dropped in. Ooh, see base. Ichibi looked back to Kyubi and said, see? Only to get Kyubi to slap him again. As cute as your collection of greater demons is, Dee said to her friend, didn't you ask me here for a reason? I did. And the reason is I'm still eating breakfast. Garakun, we have guests. A boy practically bounced into the room. He was wearing a wide-brimmed straw hat, the same ones you would see on a tanuki statue, currently lowered to his back, shorts, and a t-shirt, walking barefoot into the room. Who are they? He said happily. Deez raised an eyebrow at the tanuki boy, and then Blue, as she gave a slight groan. Gaara, you know I asked you not to call me that. That's the problem, Blue told Deez. The boy was a host, like Naruto, he's attention-starved, and used to think of the Ichibi as his mother. Now he thinks I am. Kazan is the one that protects you, Gaara said, smiling, as he hugged her. Help, Blue said softly. He knows I'm not his cousin, but he won't stop. Deez nodded, and smiled. Naruto, how about you and Gaara go outside and play for a bit? Sure, Kazan. Gaara, let's go. Naruto took his hand, and led him outside. Deez smiled, and said, watch the magic, Blue. Naruto and Gaara were running along the beach, kicking up sand, as they did. Naruto wasn't sure why Gaara was so happy, but much like his own happiness, it was infectious. He couldn't stop smiling with him. Hey Gaara, have you ever built a sand castle? No, but isn't it just something children do? Naya. Look around, Gaara. He did, and saw adults everywhere with their family, and a bunch of children, even some older than they were, making sand castles. Being an adult means you are taller than 3 feet. So, he picked up a handful of wet sand, and threw it at him. Ack. Oh, now you're going to get it. He raised his hands, and several hands of sand came up from the rest, and began throwing handfuls at him. Yikes. Naruto jumped, ducked, anything, and everything to dodge until he rolled along the ground, and came up with a sickness that he held like a sword. Yeah. He ran for the ocean, knocking aside the sandballs as he went. Digging his claws in, he slid along the water a moment until he was halfway up his knees in water. Then he pulled the stick back, and slashed it down into the water, and then back up, throwing a large wave on Gaara just before Naruto was pelted with several handfuls of sand. They both lay in the water a moment before they began to laugh hysterically. When they sat up, Naruto began making the castle, still laughing every now and then. That was awesome, Gaara agreed, as he joined him. Hey Gaara, do you have any brothers or sisters? Gaara replied. I just got one sister, Naruto replied. Her name is Carol. She's only a few years old, and she looks to me like I'm the greatest person on earth. Next to Tusan and Kazan. I'm the youngest, but my siblings don't get along well with me, he said sadly. Why not? Is it because of the Ichibi? Yes. Used to not be touched, but now Gaara smiled, as he grabbed Naruto. Anyone can touch me if I want them to. He sighed. So, are you going to go back, and show your siblings? Be near them, and hug them? I don't know if I should. My village was really afraid of me. And now I look like it. But here he looked to where a princess of the Rand clan stood in the surf, holding up several men on her outstretched arms before suddenly laughing, and throwing them all out into the water. I'm normal. Naruto frowned, he understood that, but Gaara had a brother and sister. Not me. If I had Carol in Konoha, I would have stayed there even looking like this because she was there. But you could have taken it with you. She's only a few years old, she couldn't make it. Naruto sighed. So what if you aren't liked by other people? If they care for you, then that is enough. Gaara thought of how much Temari always tried to be nice to him, and the few times Kankuro got tired. I miss them, Gaara muttered, then perked up. Maybe we can bring them here, and if they won't leave, then I'll have to stay there. Right. Naruto patted him on the shoulder, because home is where the heart is. Gaara nodded, but can I still call Blue-san? Naruto chuckled, I'm sure she won't mind. It was almost an hour later when they came back in. Kazan, how do I get back home? Blue looked at him just a little sad. I can send you home, cutesy. She nodded her thanks to Deez before placing her hand on his shoulder. Maybe he should stay here, Naruto said after a moment. I'm sure he'll be fine, Naruto, Deez said to him before turning around. Let's go home. Gaara, and Deez appeared just within the walls of Suna. Okay, where do you live in Gaara? Down this road. He led the way, and like he expected, people nearly ran away in a panic. He began to feel sad until Blue squeezed his shoulder. Hey, no tears. So the idiots don't like the new you. You're still a sweet little boy. Several men in animal masks suddenly encircled them along with a red-haired man. Well, if it isn't two of the Yuzu. Lost are we? Sabaka asked. Father, Gaara said, getting his attention. Gaara? How did you merge with the Ichibi? No, Father Blue-san took it from me, and saved me. She took it from you, he asked, the set of his jaw growing tighter. She took our villages from you. Hey, calm down, Blue nearly growled. Where is it, woman? What have you? Wendell, Blue shouted, throwing her hand out, summoning several wind elementals to her. Each of the ninja was imprisoned inside one. I said to calm down, and when I say for someone to do something, they have to do it best. Sabaka began to choke, as the air was pulled from his lungs and body. Do I make myself clear? Nod if I do. Sabaka nodded, as fast as he could, and the air came crashing back. Panting so hard, he pressed against the elemental, trying to escape. I see Sarutobi wasn't lying. You must be the Deez that attacked Konoha. I am not. Blue interrupted, a snarl on her lips. You boys sit tight. I need to take little Gaara home. Come along, Gaara-kun. She held out her hand for him to take. Yes, Kazan. He took it, and nearly skipped home. Here, in here. Gaara threw open the door, and called out, Temari Niken, Kankuro Nizan. Temari was the first to come to the door. Gaara, is that you? It's me. Gaara ran, and jumped on her, giving her a strong hug. I miss you. Temari gaped at the change in her brother, but for a moment. Then she smiled, and hugged him back. I miss you, Gaara. Gaara? Kankuro had come over, and stood frozen a few feet away. What happened to you? Blue Kazan took Ichibi away, but had to make me look like this to do it. Isn't it cool? I can finally hug. Blue Kazan, Kankuro questioned, looking at the door to stare at the snake lady there. Hello, Blue said to them. You two know a rather unpleasant man with red hair leading a good number of ninja? Yeah, Kankuro replied. He's our father. Your father? How could a father let what happened to Gaara happen? Because he ordered it, Temari said sadly. It killed our mother for it to happen. Oh hell no. She turned around, and gave a whistle. Moments later, the elemental holding Sabaka came up to her. What's this I hear about you putting the Ichibi inside Gaara, killing his mother to do it? Private matter. I don't interfere with Yuzu no Kuni, don't interfere with my village. You must be the Kazakage. The most powerful ninja in this village, correct? Well, Kazakage-sama, I am Blue. The most powerful woman, Naga, creature, living or non-living, mortal or immortal, on this planet, leaned in close to him, and I'm pissed. Sabaka gulped, fearing what she would say next. More importantly to you though, I'm pissed at you. I'm the Kazakage. I refuse to be manhandled by some subhuman. Gaara suddenly felt like he needed to get away. His ears lay against his head, and his tail curled up around his waist. Sister, brother, we should go. What? But what about father? Kankuro said before the most palpable anger, and hatred covered the village. He felt nothing like it before, and thought he was going to die underneath it before Gaara grabbed both, and pulled them into the deepest, darkest place, and curled into a ball to hide. "What did you call me?" Blue growled. "I believe I heard you call me a subhuman." Sabako swallowed, but refused to back down, despite all his instincts screaming for him to do just that. "You, all of your worthless little island, and that little monster you brought here." It grew heavier in the air, but Blue said nothing else. She spread her arms, making Sabako do the same before mana began to float off her with how much she was concentrating on. "Well, what are you going to do?" "Gaara, Temari, Kankuro," Blue said, opening the door to the cupboard under the stairs that they hid in. "Kazan?" Gaara asked, his ears standing up again. "You did very well protecting them, Gaara-kun." She leaned in, and picked him up. "I decided I changed my mind. You can call me as much as you want, because you and your siblings are coming with me. Your father and I had a long discussion, and he realized that he was a horrible father. So I convinced him to let you come with me." Temari knew she was lying through her teeth on some of those, but she was right. He was a horrible father. Gaara stayed crouched for a little bit longer before his tail straightened, and he looked up again. "Thank you, Kazan." Gaara reached out for a hug, and Blue didn't hesitate in taking him in her arms. "Come on, you two, don't think you're not getting one," Blue said, grabbing them, as well. "I'm taking you all home, and you can really be a family, and I'll be your..." She gave them all a kiss on the forehead. Even Kankuro looked happy about that. "Cool, are we going to say goodbye to father?" "I'm afraid he's tied up at the moment, but he did tell me to give you his fondest wishes." Kankuro nodded, knowing his father would do that, not say goodbye in person. Temari narrowed her eyes, but nodded, as well. "Can we go home then, Kazan?" Gaara asked. "Yeah, right now." They all teleported away, the children never seeing Sabako was tied to the walls by his arms, his skin missing, and his body held on the edge of death to feel the pain until it failed. Blood covered the walls, and pieces of flesh were here and there. She had skinned him, healed it, and skinned him again, and not in a swipe of a knife motion either. Magic pulled his skin off his body, destroying his mind in doing so. All he would feel for what little life he had left was the pain. Blue was one of the kindest people on earth, but called her, and her people subhuman, and there was no mercy, especially when they specifically added a boy she was growing more and more fond of. "This was an act of war," one of the Council of Sunas shouted. "It's obvious that these creatures are too dangerous to let live, and what are we to do?" another shouted. "There is only one known entrance to Yuzuno Kuni, and let us not forget, all reports have said there have been 3 individuals that have brought a Kage to their knees," an old woman said to them. "These that attacked Konoha, and Uzumaki, Rand Althor with Kiri, and now Blue with the Kazekage. What if more of these individuals are there with the same, or even greater power?" The Hokage himself said that all the ninja of Konoha were unable to stop their attacker. "The same with ours, and Kiri is now aligned with them. Are you suggesting we let them get away with this attack? They killed the Kazekage, they kidnapped his children. I can't even imagine the horrors they must be going through even now." "Faster," Gaara cheered, as an elemental flew him and his siblings around through the air. "All right, Gaara-kun," Blue said with a helpless smile before willing the elemental to fly faster. He screamed in excitement. Kankuro and Temari watched Gaara fly about, and looked at each other before Blue. Me next," Kankuro said, hopping up and down. Temari pushed him out of the way. "No, me please, Blue," she said the last word a little oddly, unsure if she should. "You can call me Temari-chan," Blue told her before waving her hands, and both Temari and Kankuro were picked up by elementals. As they flew around laughing, Blue smiled, and said, "What sweet children. But I won't get a cute little tanuki later." "As horrible as it probably is, we can't do much at this moment in time," the woman said. "It would be foolhardy to try anything without knowing anything about them, and the most trustworthy source of information just happens to be Yagura. So we are without anything." "How would you like information?" a voice said, entering the room. The man had silver eyes with the scarab black instead of white. His headband was from Taki, but it bore a scratch through it, marking a missing ninja. "Who are you, and how did you get inside the council chambers?" With the left half of his face covered by a cloth named Baki demanded, dropping into a ready position to fight him. "I am Kakuzu. I represent a group of mercenaries called Akatsuki, and I got here through the abilities of one of my associates. And I'm here because we heard about the incident with Yuzu, and your Kazekage. One of us was so impressed he had a poster of it made to hang on his wall." "I'm glad death is so meaningless to you," one of the elders growled. "What do you want?" "To make money, of course. Why else become a mercenary? That being said, I come bearing information." He held up a disc, "Everything on the 3 individuals that you were just talking about that we were able to find plus several other important figures, and general information of the 4 main clans. We guarantee accuracy. Baki said, still ready to attack. How do we know that's what you say? This. Kakuzu walked around to the speaker stand, set a display on it, and inserted the disc. The screen powered on, and it showed a picture of a blue-haired woman with her lower body being that of a snake. This is your attacker, is it not? He took their scowls, as an affirmative. Her name is Deez, but is more commonly known as Blue. The woman is a flirt by all accounts, and usually has no problem scouting among the young to elderly for a potential one-night stand or long-term love interest. Our information says that she is older than Yuzu itself. No person is that old, someone interrupted. Sure no one is, Kakuzu said sarcastically. Chio Ebizo, do you two recognize me? He asked the oldest there. Heh, the old man said before stretching. Yeah, haven't changed a bit, he mumbled. When was the last time we met, Chio wondered. 25 years ago? 40, Kakuzu corrected. We get it, Baki interjected. Extreme old age with agility isn't unheard of, but that would make her thousands of years old. Correct, Kakuzu replied. This information is known by even the school children in Yuzu. I even have information on how she does what she does. How? The first of the elders asked. I'm afraid that is all for the free sample on Blue. He changed the screen to show a red-haired woman that made Chio widen her eyes. It's her, the red hot-blooded habanero Uzumaki Kushina. You are close, Chio-chan, Kakuzu said with a smirk. This is her mother, Uzumaki Deez. She is the most prominent member to ever come from the Ryu clan, and is the wife of the head of the Uzumaki clan, Uzumaki Rei. It is believed she was the student of Blue, which would be consistent with their similar abilities and age. She is said to be able to change into a giant dragon over 100 feet tall that breathes out lightning. I don't know if it is true or not, but that is what is said. She attacked Konoha a few years ago. She entered, and left without a scratch. And finally, it changed to show Rand al'Thor. Rand al'Thor, the leader of the Rand clan. Despite his size, he is actually a very gentle man, and is, of all things, a paladin. A warrior priest. Reports say he dislikes violence, and regrets that he is so good at it. Even so, no one doubts that he is a capable warrior, and will not hesitate to kill someone if he must. He was the one that attacked Yagura during negotiations, breaking a seal that had been controlling the Mizukage. Kakuzu turned it off, and removed the disc, and that has everything known about them. That, and more, Kakuzu promised. It also has a list of known members of the Yuzushiogakyure, the ninja force of Yuzu. This is only a small fraction of immediately ready warriors compared to all the war-ready of the entirety of the land, and a rough estimate of their numbers. What is your price? 10 million Rio. Plus any information you have on, especially their known locations. 5 million, the second elder bargained. Non-negotiable. 10 million, and the information takes it or leaves it. Give us 5 minutes to discuss please, Baki asked. Kakuzu nodded, and walked out. At the door, he stopped a moment, and said, Chio, Ebizo, you should know I have only grown in strength since our last meeting. Figuring that out already, Chio laughed. Old Duddy. You should hardly be calling anyone old, Ebizo stated. Bah, she scoffed. When he was back in the hall, the council looked to each other, and began to discuss if it was worth it. Pay him, Chio said after a minute of the rest arguing. For all he is, he doesn't break a deal. We should do it, Baki agreed. We need information directly. For all we know, they spent these years in seclusion preparing for an invasion. When they all agreed, Baki stood, and walked out. Kakuzu-san, we will pay. Excellent. Upon delivery you shall get the disc. He shook Baki's hand, and sat down to wait, ready for any treachery they might think of. They went through with the deal. Back inside the council room, they began playing with the full information Akatsuki had gathered. Even still, information was obvious it was hard to come by, as the youngest bits are a year old. After that, it became completely impossible to enter Yuzu unnoticed. Baki, as one of the lead military advisors there, didn't like it. Their numbers could be greater than they were told, and even if they weren't it didn't look promising. What did look promising was the chance to get a spy in, as they had sent messages to all the Yuzu outside the country to call them back home. Cousin, Mina, and Nina said, hugging a woman in her 50s. Careful, I'm not as young as I used to be, a woman with bright red hair said, as she hugged them back. I brought all the Uzumaki from AIM I could find, she stated. But my sister and her family are gone. I haven't seen them since the war. Poor little Nagato. He was only 7 then. That's why everyone is coming back, Mina promised. Safety. We never should have spread out. They can't be trusted. Yes, top warlike. Enough is never enough for them, Nina agreed. But not anymore. Everyone's been coming back. Looking behind the elder Uzumaki, she walked over to the boat, and helped an old man down. Oh ho ho, he chuckled, popping his back, as he shook out his tail and fur. Good to be home, he said, taking in the smell of the air. I haven't been here since Lady D's lost her husband. Tell me, how is she doing? She's a mother again, Nina, and Mina said happily. Her daughter is Carol, and her grandson is Naruto, Mina continued. Naruto is such a good older brother too. He loves Carol to death, Nina finished. And D's? Lady Blue is fine, has a few children of her own to care for now, Princess Rand Amelia said to him. A tanuki boy, a little girl, and an older boy. Good, good, the old man said before seeing a butterfly. He almost chased after it like when he was younger, but decided not to. Here comes another boat now, Amelia said, going over to meet them. Nina and Mina began taking account of who all were coming back. They were saddened by how many had died from getting caught in the crossfire between the 5 nations and other villages. In their opinion, it was the best decision ever. It's nice to be having the whole family back again, Mina said to Nina. And it looks like they'll be here for Halloween, too, Nina stated excitedly. Everyone began to smile at that. Halloween was almost as big as Christmas in Yuzu. And what will be the center this year? Nina and Mina grinned. A wizard duel. Between Sora Merlin, Nina began. And Madame Ryu Mim, Mina finished. A child close by blinked, and asked, Madame Mim? As in Madame Mim that my mommy told me about. The same, Nina, and Mina replied happily. We can't wait. In a field surrounded by almost all the residents of Yuzu no Kuni, stood 2 individuals. One was a man about middle age with a long beard, and the other was a woman with an ageless appearance that could be obtained only through magic. Now if you don't mind I'll make the rules. Rules indeed, Merlin's owl huffed on a nearby tree branch. Bah, why does she only want rules so she could break them? I'll deal with you soon, Featherbrains. Rule 1, no plants or minerals, only animals. Rule 2, no make-believe things like pink phoenixes, and stuff. Now Rule 3, no disappearing, she said before reaching up and pinching Merlin's nose. Merlin huffed, and said, Rule 4, no cheating. Fine, we'll turn around, and march 10 paces. Out in the crowds, Carol turned to her mother. Cousin, what is this? A wizard duel, sweetie, Dee said. It's a contest often used to settle differences through strength of wit. Used to be it was to the death, but we stopped that now. Death? Just watch, you'll get the idea very quickly. What about what the owl said? Naruto asked. About her breaking rules? Rules are just a formality in this. They are there, but almost no one pays attention to them. I promise Merlin will stick to them, but Madame Mim won't. They are just a reminder for it to not get out of hand. Okay, her children said before looking back. Merlin and Madame Mim stood back to back. 10 paces, Merlin, Mim said, smiling. On my count, 1, 2, 3, 4, he. She vanished, as she started chuckling. Merlin, she disappeared, the owl warned. Merlin spun around, and said, Madam, you made the rules. Behind him, a set of teeth and eyes appeared followed by a red alligator. She began to snap at him only for Merlin to notice her, and puff into smoke. She bit down on his hat, and found something inside. Giggling, she grabbed the hat, and reached inside. Ow! She pulled her hand out with the turtle biting her finger. She waved it around a bit, and the turtle flew off. Seeing Merlin land on his shell, she got down, and began waddling over to him. Merlin, changed into something else, the owl called. Merlin bit the grass, and used it to pull himself back on his feet. Yes, just give me a moment to think. He hopped a bit, and changed into a hare just before Mim bit down on his tail. Merlin pulled away, and looked at his hairless tail. Madam, just a minute. He marched back over, and grabbed his tail still caught in her jaws. This is not a toy. He began to pull only for the jaws holding the tails to change into the arms of a laughing fox. Merlin jumped almost 3 feet into the air before running with Mim chasing after him. Change into something bigger, the owl encouraged while Mom chased Merlin into a log. I got you now, Merlin! Merlin? Not disappearing, she scolded only for this blue caterpillar to crawl out of a hole on top. Panting, Merlin moved up a branch while Mom looked out the hole. Oh ho ho! Merlin moved to the top of the branch while Mom came out, as a plump red chicken. Oh ho, ha ha ha, cluck cluck peacock. She laughed while jumping up, and biting him on the butt. She began to pull down, stretching Merlin out until the branch slingshot him up in the air. At the peak of his flight, Merlin looked down to see Mom getting ready to eat him. So, instead of staying a worm, he expanded into a walrus, and landed right on top of her. Merlin looked around, and said, Mim? Mim, are you alright? Whoa, what's going on here? Under Merlin, Mim changed into an elephant, and wrapped her trunk around his neck, pulling him off her, and in front of her face. You big blimp, Mim said, getting mad. Merlin didn't look afraid. He just played an old cliché. He turned into a mouse, and squeaked at Mim, making her scream, drop him, and run away. Merlin began to chase her before Mim changed into a fat tiger, and began chasing him. Ha ha ha! Squash me, will you? She jumped into the air, coming down right where Merlin was with a loud crash. Got him, but Merlin had dived into a rabbit hole, and came up behind Mom, picked up her tail, and was going to bite it. He didn't notice that the tail grew a rattlesnake's rattle at the end. Merlin, Mim hissed before biting at him. Merlin escaped this time by pushing her tail into her mouth to bite. Ouch! Ooh! She pulled her body close, and glared after the fleeing mouse. Merlin went into another rabbit hole, followed by Mim. Just you wait, you're going to pay. Merlin came out the other end, and moved a rock over the hole. Mim crashed into it, pushing it off while showing everyone her dazed face before sinking back down the hole. All the spectators were cheering for their favored mage, and laughing a bit. Merlin took a breath before changing into a crab. Mim poked her head up, saw him about to pinch her with a claw. She ducked down in time for Merlin to pinch nothing, and pushed her head up under it. His other claw tried to pinch her, and she ducked back down again. This happened 3 more times like a sadistic game of whack-a-mole until something besides a snake head came from it. Merlin pinched it only to find no give on it. It was a rhino horn. So you want to play rough, do you? Mim asked, as she forced herself from the ground. She turned around, and ran for a tree, making the people around it scatter. Alright Merlin, I'll smash you, you old bag. Jumping Jehoshaphat. Merlin let go of the horn, and jumped off before she burst through it, and got caught in it. Here I come, Mim, ready or not? He changed into a ram, and ran right for her rear end. Merlin, you wouldn't dare! Merlin slammed right into her, throwing her, and the tree several yards. Ag! Merlin took a deep breath before letting out a sigh. Only for the tree to burst into fire, and a purple phoenix rose up from the ashes. Now Mim, no phoenixes. Did I say purple phoenixes? Did I? She breathed fire at Merlin only for people to start booing. Oh hush you! It's between me and Merlin. Don't make me interfere, Mim, Dee's called out, silencing everyone, and making Mim wilt a little. Merlin stood back up, once again human, and dusted himself off. That's quite alright, milady, I can handle this. As you wish, Merlin, Dee said before sitting back down. Watch, Merlin is about to win. Mim took a deep breath, nodded to Merlin to see if he was ready to continue, and Merlin nodded back. Merlin then started running, changing into a mouse, and diving into a rabbit hole to escape the fire she was throwing at them. Mim looked down the hole, and breathed fire into it, forcing Merlin up, and out of the hole, and into the air where she caught him in her claws. Oh hoo! I win! She opened her claws only for Merlin to have vanished. He's gone, the owl said in shock. Disappeared? Madam, Merlin said from around her. I have not disappeared, I'm very tiny. I'm a germ, a rare disease. It's called. And you caught me, Mim! What? Mim shouted, making the owl, and many others laugh. First you should break out into spots. Even, as he said it, red dots began to cover her body, followed by hot and cold flashes. She went from purple to red and blue, ha, and violent sneezing. Cho! A gout of fire burst from Mim. Ooh! You sneaky scoundrel you! She landed, and looked to be in a really bad mood, as she changed back, and Merlin reappeared. Do you concede defeat, madam? Madam Mim glared at him a moment before smiling. Got me again, you old coot. Don't worry, I'll get you next time. I'm sure you will, Merlin said, bending his back a little to get it to pop. Ooh. Sometimes I feel like I'm too old for this. Bah, you're only 47. Some of us aged more gracefully than others, Mim, Merlin countered. It was well known Madam Mim used magic to slow her aging, and keep herself youthful. Merlin on the other hand was the exact opposite, using his magic to benefit others, and never himself. Anyway, you should be fine in a few weeks. Chicken soup, rest, and lots of sunshine. Mim sighed, but nodded. Naruto finished up training the next day, and walked into his home. Kazan? Tusan? Hearing music, Naruto followed it to the den. There, he found Carol sitting at the door, giggling, while their parents were dancing in circles. Lonely rivers flow, to the sea, to the sea. To the open arms of the played the radio. Lonely rivers sigh, wait for me. I'll be coming home, waiting for it. Naruto smiled, and picked up his sister. Come along, Carol. But I want to watch. Kazan and Tusen want some alone time. But I want to dance too. Carol slipped free, and ran back in. Can I dance too, Daddy? Ray smiled at his daughter, let his wife go, and offered his hand to her. Can I have this dance? Yes, Daddy. She grabbed his hands, and started swinging them back and forth, making Naruto sigh, and Deez giggled. You want to dance, Naruto? No, I just got done with training today. Besides, why? Never going to dance with a girl, you need to like one first. Deez giggled again. Conan still mad at you? I don't even know what I did. What do you think of me? I tell her, and pow zoom, right to the moon. Girls are complicated like that, Deez told him. Don't worry, she leaned in close, and whispered, not even your father has figured one out. But what about you? Naruto asked her. I have to keep him on his toes, Deez said knowingly. Despite him saying no, Deez moved over to him, and placed her hands behind his back, and began to dance. Cousin, Naruto whined. Oh, you'll get used to it, she said playfully. Maybe you should apologize to Conan. But I didn't do anything, he protested. Maybe, but she is your friend, isn't she? One of my best, Naruto said. We do some of our best pranks together. Then apologize and be friends again. Naruto sighed, but nodded he would. Naruto, Ray said sternly, making him nervous. Are you flirting with my wife? He joked. Naruto stared at his father a moment before grinning. Well, since you're flirting with my sister, I thought I'd take the chance to steal Kazan away from you. Deez smiled, as well. Ray, I'm shocked. I didn't know you liked younger women so much. Daddy, Carol said, holding her arms up to be picked up. Ray smiled at them all, and held her up to wrap her arms around his neck. You caught me, Ray said, rubbing the back of his head. I love this woman more than life itself. I love you too, Daddy, Carol said, squeezing his neck tightly. Well, you always knew I like younger men. Deez laughed, hugging Naruto to her, making him laugh too. Taking his mother's advice, Naruto headed off to find Conan. Instead of finding her though, he came across Din first. Hey Din-chan. Hello Naruto-kun, she said, smiling softly at him. She had grown even lovelier over the years. Her red hair was pulled into a ponytail with two long bangs framing her face. Today, she was wearing a pair of pants like most Sora wore, made it harder for people to look up their skirts, and a sleeveless blouse. How have you been? She asked sweetly. I'm fine, Carol is too. That's nice, she replied happily. Looking for something? Someone. Conan is mad at me for some reason, so I'm going to apologize. Din seemed to puff up at the mention of Conan, her feathers becoming ruffled, and her lips becoming pursed. That girl, she almost growled. She really should learn how to act her age. Din, we're still children, so what if Conan wants to act like one? Since she is also a princess of the Uzumaki, she should act like one. Naruto sighed. Every time you mention the other to one of them they do this. Naruto moved behind her, and began to smooth out her feathers. She isn't so bad. She stole my undergarments yesterday, and returned them tie-dyed. Naruto looked at her, shocked. Conan pulled a prank like that? Without inviting me? Oh, she is really mad. Naruto, you would join her on these childish pranks? Naruto looked at her face in confusion. Yeah. Not against you, Din-chan, but just to have some fun, sure. Din sighed. Oh Naruto, what will I do with you? Love me, hug me, pet me, Naruto said as a joke. Like a little kitten, Din laughed, scratching the top of his head, getting a light purr. Smack! Naruto was thrown to the ground with a big pile of mud in his face. Conan's surprise attack. Naruto wiped it from his face, and saw Conan standing a few feet away, another handful of mud ready to be thrown, and her fur standing on end in agitation. Why you? Naruto jumped back to his feet, ducking under the next throw, and pounced on Conan. Get off, she hissed. I'll teach you to throw mud. They began rolling around, trying to come out on top, and pin the other. Naruto, Conan, stop this, Din called, following them, as they rolled into a bush. Pinja! Conan said, having thought she had Naruto on the ground, but for him to kick himself up to flip them. Not this time. They rolled from Din's sight once more, and thumped against a tree. Ow! Both hissed. Naruto-kun, are you ill? Din came through the bushes, and stopped, gaping at seeing Naruto sitting against the tree, rubbing his hurting head, as Conan sat on his lap, holding her injured head, as well. Naruto was growling in complaint until he noticed that Din was standing almost above them, and her feathers were becoming more and more ruffled. Din, are you going to believe what you see or what we tell you? Humph! She spun around, and marched away. Come on, Din-chan, not you too! Setting Conan on the ground, he stepped after her. Come on, what did I do wrong? Naruto! Conan grabbed his arm, growling after Din. Leave the stick in the mud, let's go play. Naruto looked at Conan, and then at Din, who grabbed his other arm. Huh! I'm not leaving Naruto-kun with you, delinquent. You have him running around getting in all sorts of trouble. Girls? Naruto questioned, looking back and forth between them, suddenly wanting to be somewhere else. And you would have him pre-med, studying books like a good little boy. Naruto loves to run around and have fun. He does it all the time with me. Naruto loves to read. We were reading a book together just last week. Really, why are you two fighting? You stay out of this, they yelled at him. Naruto's ears lay back against his head, his tail wrapped around him, and he tried to shrink even, as they held onto him. Yes, ladies, he said in submission. Let him go, Conan growled. You. He was mine first. Naruto is my toy. He's my friend, not your toy. He is too. Is not. Fly off, featherbrains. Scat, kitty cat. Oh, you did not. Kitty cat. Want a saucer of milk? Conan let go of Naruto, and lunged at Din, pushing her off Naruto, as well, and carrying her to the ground where they rolled around, scratching, biting, and kicking. Bad kitty, Din screamed, slapping her cheek. I'm going to eat you, little bird. Stop it, Naruto shouted at them only for them to ignore him, as they continued to roll around. I said stop. Naruto flared his mana, as much as he could, as they came to a new clearing, driving the point home, making all the occupants freeze, and look at him. The trouble was that it wasn't just Din and Conan there looking. Well, a prince and princess of the Uzumaki, a boy about 15 wearing ninja clothes, and a headband from Suna said, looking at them all. And one from the Sora, another said. Conan, and Din scrambled from the ground to face the 4 ninja in front of them. Who are you? How did you get in Yuzu? Din demanded. We're ninja girls, we go wherever we damn well please, the third and oldest there said. Luckily, all 4 of them were genin. The bad news is that they were just waiting for their partners. Catch them, we can't let Yuzu know we're here, the 4th order. The 4 started to spread out to surround them. Remember, those wings can really fly, the first warned. What if they won't be quiet, the 3rd asked. Kill them, of course, might have to anyway. Naruto's hand reached down for his bakken only to remember he left it home. Instead he reached behind his back, and pulled his daggers free. Conan crouched, tightening the pads on her calves and feet. Din, you're the fastest, you go get help, we'll keep them busy, Naruto told her. I can fight too. Just go, Conan growled, keeping an eye on the 2 closest to her. Not going to happen. You said it, Naruto growled. I am the son of Namikaze Minato, and Uzumaki Kushina, the grandson of Uzumaki Rei, and Deez, and the apprentice of Ryu Suzuka, so there is no way on this earth or the next that I'll let you do anything to her. Naruto ran forward suddenly, surprising them, as he kicked one in the stomach, stomping as hard as he could where his neck met his shoulder to kick off into the air to grab his other one, coming down on his back, and driving a dagger into it. It had all been a reaction. He never thought to do any of it, and realizing just what his parents had been teaching him to do left him breathless. Conan, on the other hand, had rolled along the ground, swinging her legs around, and tripping them up. As they hit the ground, she jumped back to her feet, slamming them down on their chest with more force than her small frame would suggest she possessed. Go, Naruto shouted, as the ninja he was on tried to throw him off. Din nodded, and jumped into the air, flapping her wings to get about the trees. Oh no, you don't, the ninja Naruto first kick said, jumping on a tree branch, and then jumping at Din. You're not going anywhere. Ice arrow, Din chanted, aiming a finger at him. Ice in the shape of an arrow shot from her arm, hitting him, and freezing him in a block of ice that fell to the ground like a rock. Good one, Feather Duster, Conan called, twisting into a double spin kick while dodging their kunai. Now go! Right. Din floated there a moment longer before turning to the sky, and flying off. You damn brat, the ninja Naruto stabbed shouted, grabbing his tail, and pulling. Ack. Naruto twisted the dagger horizontally, and suddenly pulled it across the boy's back. They both dropped to the ground, one in horror that he could no longer move below his chest. Bastard. The second one Conan was fighting started to do hand signs when Conan flipped up to land on her legs on his shoulders by twisting her hips, turning his neck sharply. He too fell to the ground. Panting, Conan looked at Naruto, and smiled, only to see him twist to a more stable position, and throw a dagger at her. It went over her shoulder, and she spun to see it embedded in the stomach of the last one. His other dagger joined the first, hitting the ninja's chest. The 2 of them stayed like that a moment, too afraid to even move away. Conan looked at Naruto to see he had tears in his eyes. Conan, are you hurt? No, you? I'm fine, he just grabbed my tail. Conan pulled the daggers free, getting a groan from the boy on the ground, and gave them back. Naruto could only stare at the blood. Oddly enough, Conan didn't feel as shocked by this as Naruto looked to be, and it confused her. Naruto, we need to move, if more are coming it would be better to be gone. Why yeah? Stumbling, Naruto got back up to his feet, and looked at them. They're all still alive. I'm kind of surprised, Conan muttered. Let's go, Naruto-kun, she said, tugging on his arm urgently. Too late, 2 grown men said, dropping down in front of, and behind them. They wore vests. Well, you 2 are lucky, the brats are alive, the one in front said. So we won't kill you, the other said. Not that you're in for anything better. He looked down, and saw an arrow made from paper was planted in his shoulder. He pulled it out with a grimace, and it fell apart into ordinary paper. Well now, isn't that something? Guess we're taking you alive, the other said, laughing at the other. Let down your guard. Surprise me, the other admitted. Won't again. Conan created another piece of paper, folding it into a shuriken with just a flick of her wrist, and throwing it at the other, hoping to catch him by surprise as well. He ducked, and sprinted forward, kunai in hand. Naruto blocked it with his daggers. How did you do that? Naruto asked. I have no idea. She ducked a punch, and kicked the attacker in the crotch. That I learned from your aunt. Little bitch, the man just growled, and winced instead of dropping to the ground. Conan back-flipped a few times, more paper moving to her hands, and she swung it, forming a whip. It wrapped around the man's arm, cutting clothes and flesh, as it did. Growling, he grabbed it with both hands, cutting them, and began to pull her close. Naruto ducked, falling into an adjusted form of the spell blade to compensate for the shorter blade, and having two of them. He ducked under a slash, and tried to hamstring the only for him to hop over it. Agile little things, aren't they? Creative with weapons too, the other said, grabbing and pulling the whip from her hands. It'll be worth it to try, and breed them with the rest of the ninja of Suna. That's for sure. We're not some animals you can do what you want to, Naruto growled. Hardly looks like it, you little subhuman. Naruto. And Conan growled heavily at that. Typhoon Gale, Conan kicked up into his chin, blasting him away with wind. Heavenly Strike, Naruto shouted, bringing his dagger across, cutting the kunai in half. Flashing Blade. Naruto began several stabbing and slashing moves, all meant to disable and confuse his opponent. Thinking we hit a nerve, the second one laughed, landing on his feet from the kick. A little busy, the first said, parrying as many as he could. Surprisingly, Naruto had scored a few cuts on him. Suna Bunshin no. He jumped back, as sand gathered up into a copy of him to hold Naruto in place. Kaze Chanbara. He swiped two fingers across, sending a blade of wind that lamed Naruto's right arm. That took care of him. Got her? 1 second. Meteor Smash. Conan jumped up, and came down with her foot burning with mana. The man was able to get out of the way, and the attack hit the ground, making a crater. As she was recovering from the attack, he came up behind her, and wrapped his arms under hers, and around her neck. Let go, let go! Grab her legs. Both held her before tying her feet and hands together. Few tough little brats. Almost got me, the first said, looking at a cut where Naruto almost severs an artery. Looking back at the two, he said, so, what should we do to them? Definitely taking them back with us, alive. Imagine what we could learn from them. And if this brat's parents are as important as he says, the first continued with a grin, I think we'll have the leverage we need. Or a third voice called out from the woods, you can let them go peacefully, and I won't kill you all. Great, another subhuman, the second muttered. This is your last warning, the voice called out. Why don't you come out, and face us, the first challenge. I don't need to, he can for me, the man in the woods said. Hearing something large coming up behind them, they turned around to see a giant, blue chitin, four-legged insect with small fluttering wings on its back that couldn't fly, with several spines, and really large fangs jumping on the second, biting, and tearing flesh. Aka! Get it off! He turned his head to the side to avoid a bite, and saw his partner dropping to the ground, an arrow in his chest, stomach, and spine. Arachne, stop, the person ordered, as he walked into the forest. Arachne didn't get off him, but it stopped clawing and biting. If he moves, kill him. The dragon knelt down by the he shot with arrows, and pressed 2 fingers to his neck. He's alive enough. So, are you going to come quietly, or do I let my friend here finish the job? He asked, scratching the top of Arachne's head. The insect leaned down, chittering almost like a growl. I concede, the man gasped. Naruto, Conan, Din called, running into the field, and pulling Naruto from the sand, and then untying Conan. Are you alright? They got a few good hits, Conan grumbled. Good, as new, Naruto chuckled painfully, as he raised his arm. His face went deathly pale, as blood gushed from it, and he fell to the ground. Naruto! They both shouted, as they crouched by him, and pressed on the wound to stop the bleeding. Here, drink this, the ranger said, handing Naruto a red potion. Din took it, pulled the cork off, and raised Naruto's head to pour it in his mouth. It was sweet, and it caused the flesh to knit back together, and promoted blood recreation. That kept him from dying. But you girls need to get him to a priest or druid. The Rand clan estates are in that direction, they're the closest. Thank you, sir, Din said, bowing to him. What's your name? Ryu Kale of the Rangers. Now go, I'll take care of these men. Conan, and Din picked him up with one arm over each of their shoulders, and carried him off. When they were gone, Kale raised a whistle to his lips, and blew on it, summoning aid to help him. Sir, a man in dark clothes said, kneeling before Ryudoragan, Uzumaki Rei, Sora Aoi, and ran Althor. The shadows, and I have discovered that the Suna shadows hid aboard one of the ships that were used to bring our clan members back home, he said to them. The shadows were the ninja of Yuzu, specialists in spying, assassination, use, and many other skills. The group Ranger Kale brought in was just one of 3. All have been apprehended, and are being interrogated. Rei-sama, your son should be happy to know he did not kill any of them. I noticed he looked disturbed about the thought he did. Thank you. What have you done to correct this mistake? I asked. We have asked the rangers to begin doing searches through the lands, and they have agreed, as well given orders to the ship captain to set anchor a quarter of the way to Yuzu, and do a search of the ship with a mage to authenticate that those coming in are from Yuzu. We have also closed the borders to all else until further notice. Very good, I said, relaxing a little. And the ones that attacked Princesses Din, Konin, and Prince Naruto? As I said, they have survived their various injuries. One of the stronger priests is trying to restore feeling to those that were paralyzed. The one with the broken neck can move again. The 2 with the several spinal cords we are still waiting on. Other than that, there are no lasting injuries. They await your judgment. Executing them, Dorigan growled. Sir, this might have been retaliatory, the ninja hesitated to add. How? Althor asked. When questioned, one of the genin revealed that recently, 2 Yuzu, a Naga, and Tanuki boy, went to Suna, and when they left, the Kazekage was dead. I have a member of the Pathfinders checking this even now. Do you know who these 2 might be? Dorigan asked. Sabakugara and Blue, Rei stated. My wife and son told me about when they went to see Blue just a week and a half ago. I was under the impression that Gara stayed there. But what? I asked. They have a policy on the continent that all must be related to one of the 5 Kages to ensure their loyalty. Gara was the Ichibi, so Lady Blue killed him for doing that, and kept the child, Althor finished. All of the Kazekage's children, if the sun shadows are to be believed, the ninja said. She would have her reasons, Rei said without doubt. Regardless, Kodo, the ninja looked to him, the ones that attacked my son, and his friends, 50 lashes each. Yes, Rei-sama, Kodo said before vanishing. Lashes, Aoi demanded. I will not fault someone for scouting a threat, Rei growled. Blue went there, and killed the Kazekage. He was a pig, and deserved it, but she shouldn't have done it. We have existed this long by showing restraint, not anger. And look where it is getting us now, Aoi countered. They tried to kill your grandson, your niece, my niece too, of the families that went to the mainland to encourage prosperity between them, and us. How many still live? Your own daughter was among them, and she's dead, as well. Rei roared right in her face, bearing fangs almost an inch and a half long, but Aoi didn't back down, her wings spreading, and mana flaring. Enough, Dorigan shouted. Lady Aoi, your mother agreed to that, as did the rest of this council. We admit now it was a mistake, but there is no need to cause more hurt. Aoi took a deep breath, and the scowl dropped from her face. I apologize, Lord Rei, you have been hurt more than most in this. I should have listened to your counsel. Sora Aoi was the youngest there by several decades yet was already an accomplished magician. Yet, at times, she still acts more rash than she should. Apology accepted, Lady Aoi, Rei replied, calming greatly. But you are right, we have shown restraint, and our people die. We have left them alone, as we should, and our people die. We have warned them, given them chances, and our people die. He looked away with a scowl. No more. The line must be drawn here, this far, no farther. What do you propose? Althor asked. We said we would be taking an interest in the world again. We should. Dorigan nodded. Start small. Send out small teams to the surrounding island nations without shinobi villages that rely on them for protection. Except those that call on Mizu, Althor stated. And then make it so they stop needing those countries, Aoi said with a grin. There is nothing a ninja can do that we can't do 10 times better, 10 times cheaper. She thought about it a moment, and took out her charm that connected her to all the Sora Pathfinders. She spent a few minutes asking them if there was any land that truly needed help at the moment. That was quite to find. Almost all of them said the same country they all passed on the way to their posts. A whole country was being suppressed by a mob leader, and had cut off all food transport in and out of the land. Nami no Kuni. Gato was walking through the largest town in all of Nami no Kuni, expecting to look at his handiwork. What he found was a festival going on. What is this? He demanded his guards. One of them, his face painted a little like a clown, grabbed a passerby with a squash the size of a man's chest, and took the vegetable. Give me that. Huh! They expected him to get made, as food was starting to get scarce. Sure, help yourself. They have more down the street. I can get another, he said happily, handing it over. More down the street, Gato muttered before rushing down the street. What he found was a table over 20 feet long loaded down with all sorts of fruits, vegetables, and meats. Where did all this food come from? A man with a rope headband looked at him, and smiled. It's amazing, isn't it? These people came by, and started giving it away. There was even a contest earlier for a pumpkin twice as tall as I am, and just as round. I'm proud to say my family will be having pumpkin pie for a year now, he finished with a laugh. But this didn't come in on the boats, Gata stuttered. Of course not, the villager said. They grew it right outside of town, right before our eyes. Brought a cow that gives the sweetest milk you will ever taste. Hey, a mug over here. Several people with extras came by, and gave one to each, Gatu, and his bodyguards. Try it, see if it isn't the best you ever had. The bodyguard with an eye patch did try it, and gave a moan of approval. Now that's good milk, he said before draining it. Sweetest I've ever had. Who are these people? Gatu demanded. Oh, there they are, the man said, pointing to the head of the table where they were being celebrated. It was a large man almost a foot taller than a normal man, and half again, as wide with blonde hair, a woman that seemed almost like a cat with red hair, and another woman with blue hair with almost a beak-like nose. Oddly enough, the bird-like woman wore some furs, and carried a staff with carved animals in it. Gata went up to them, and said, You three, who are you, and what are you doing here? Grandparent, the big man said. Uzumaki Lily, the cat woman stated. Sora Flora, the fur-wearing woman replied. And you must be Gatu. I am. How did you get here? We flew down from on high, Parent said with a laugh. Want to see how? He stood up, towering over the guards, showing that at his waist a two-handed mace. Perfect, all this celebrating. And no exercise was going to make me fat, Lily said, showing several knives on her body. We will kill you if you intend to cause trouble, the bodyguard said, moving close with hands on their swords. Perish the thought, Flora told them. We offered to show you how we got here, we intended to show you. Like this. Perrin began to wave his hands a moment before he transformed into a large eagle. We can fly, and when we stopped down here for a break, we decided to make some food for everyone. And the cow, Gata asked when he got over his shock. That's mine, Lily purred. I love milk. Very well then, Gata growled. You should be on your way though. Be a shame if anything happened to you. Oh, we will, Flora said. We don't plan to stay long, just a week. Why a week? Well, we found out when we got here that it was a lean harvest last year, and so we decided to help everyone out for the rest of this year. By the end of the week, there will be enough vegetables that it'll take the world's 3 biggest pots to make a soup to use it all. Lily leaned forward, and we saw a pot the size of a house at home, she whispered. Eat, my friends, Parent said happily. Take what you want, there will be plenty, we promise, and we'll welcome you the whole time you're here, one man voiced, and the others cheered in agreement. Gatu tried his best to hide his scowl, and left. He couldn't do anything to them now, but he promised himself that by tomorrow morning, they would be dead or gone. 2 men crept into the room the 3 were in, pitch-covered blades out ready to slice the throats of the strangers. At the beds, they stabbed down only to find they stabbed pillows. I'm hurt, Parent said, as the lights came back on, holding his mace. You kill the women, but not me? Because they know you're a big softy, Lily giggled, her daggers out. Must have seen you with that kitten. There was no kitten, Parent protested with ease, and said she brought this up before. Yes there was, Parent, I saw you. You were dangling a piece of twine for it to play with. I was helping it train. You're a big softy, she teased. We will never speak of this again. Softy, Flora chuckled, still watching the shocked, would-be assassins. This is what I have to deal with. How about you just give up, and tell us how much Gata paid you to kill us, and then if it was worth it? There was no question in her voice. They knew she knew who hired them. Gata entered the same village the next morning expecting to hear mourning, but he didn't. It was still the same festival. Rushing to the table, he stared at his hired blades sitting next to the 3 strangers, eating, and celebrating with their targets. He turned around, and ran back to his estate, never noticing Lily wasn't with them, nor the shadow that followed him. He had just entered the woods when he heard growling. Turning around, he saw a large hunting cat, a white tiger, crouching to pounce on him. I don't take assassinations kindly, the cat purred before jumping on him. He was so deep in the woods no one heard him scream. Less than a week later, and a few hours of work from the shadows, Gata Corporation was the property of Yuzu through their mainland contacts. Ray, Aoi, Dorigan, Althor, and the leaders of the various branches of the Yuzu forces were in a chamber talking. Present was Ryu Kale of the Rangers, Sara Velv of the Pathfinders, Kodo of the Shadows, and Uzumaki Leilai of the Ley Line, a group of summoners of powerful arcane, elemental, spiritual, or even demonic, and angelic origin. Understandably, the largest were the Shadows, and even they only numbered between 100 and 200. Each group really was just a guild of similar skilled individuals that originally got together to learn from each other. Let us begin, Dorigan said, motioning to Lelia. The woman cleared her throat, and opened the book she held. To begin with, Gata Corp is being purged of all criminal elements, and old connections are being disassembled so no others may use them. We have led to the arrest of over 1,000 individuals around the elemental continent, and the disbandment of an entire criminal organization in Kaminari no Kuni. She turned the page to check it over, and nodded. Currently, the company is bringing in less than projected revenue, but in truth, I expected that many of the employees have been arrested on criminal charges. In due time, it shall return to normal, and bring in the revenue it is supposed to. Plans are already in place to divert this revenue into our interest, and connections outside of Yuzu to avoid suspicion that we own it. That you, Lelia said? Kodo, situation in Nami? The druids have finished, sir, he said in the kneeling position again. No one even knew which clan he was from. His hair and face was covered to hide his features, and he wasn't one of the princes. Even more so, it was only assumed he was a male. He covered himself so well, as a shadow should, they all knew. Nami no Kuni is quickly being restored, and word of our abilities will begin to spread. Eventually, they will come to Port Town, wishing to use us for missions if all holds out. Our contacts are ready for when they do. Good, Althor stated. Kale, once again thank you for handling that situation with the spies. You're welcome, sir, he said, nodding to him. Security here in Yuzu, Althor continued. Increase, sir. We have located 10 more, 7 of which were trying to get inside the country. They, like all the others, are having their minds wiped of what they learned, and will be returned to him. Reluctantly, one of them has lost their left leg, and it was not able to be reattached. Such is the hazard of being a spy, Althor said without compassion. Perhaps it will make them think against sending anyone else. Maybe, but I doubt it, Velvet said. And what do you have to report, Velv? Aoi asked. Velvet smiled and said, I believe everyone here will remember our Tournament of Champions, yes? He received nods and other confirmations. We of the Pathfinders have been watching the ninja villages for quite some time now, and we have noticed something. Every 6 months, a tournament of their own is held by one of the 5 largest villages, Konoha, Suna, Iwa, Kiri, and Kumo. But this tournament is only against their lowest ranked for the purpose of promotions, as well as showing off their skilled genius to potential customers. Everyone could immediately see the use of this. Without a doubt, the ninja villages were a threat to Yuzu no Kuni. They needed to give a strong front to show them that it is a very bad idea to try anything else with us, and we're better than in their very tournament. It will have to be a member of each clan at least, Dorgan stated. Princes and princesses both. It must also be symbolic to the villages, Ray said. This is us. This is what we can do. My son Naruto should go. Agreed, Aoi said. And his friends, as well of course, Konan and Din. Althor began to smile, and the 3 former children of the former Kazekage. Velvet nodded to them all. But all are still children, they're not ready. I can have a team of— No, Dorgan interrupted. The children are all already training to fight, are they not? Gaara himself has become your apprentice, correct? Yes, Velvet said slowly. Ray, Naruto is the student of Ryu Suzuka, yes? He is. And Konan is being taught by her foster mother, your sister Rinpu? Yes. Temari is being taught. She is to be an elemental mage, Aoi said. Lady Blue is teaching her. And Kankuro? He has shown interest in being a paladin, Althor said, trying to understand what he was getting at. What are you up to? When will they all be ready? And what can be done to speed it up? Year and a half, maybe 2 or 3. By then, the youngest will be 13 at the latest, Dorgan said with a smile. We send the children, when they are ready, and when they win, it'll put the hurt on their pride even more. If they want to, that is, Dorgan finished. Sounds like a good idea, Aoi said after a moment. Any village in mind? Konoha, Ray said without hesitation. We should do it in Konoha if we have the chance. They are the most peace-loving, but are also seen as the strongest. The plan will work better there. Agreed, Dorgan said. Then we shall continue this discussion when they have finished their training. But remember, they're just children, no need to rush them, he reminded. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.